It is the big thing.
And a very good morning to you. Welcome along to OTBAM this Thursday morning. We've got Tommy Walsh with us for our Christmas special. Tommy, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, Ger.
What's Christmas like in your household?
It's mad enough. 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, so crazy at the moment. We had the whole Santa experience last week up in Palmerstown, and it's really getting hot and heavy now for the next few days.
What's Santa Claus bringing?
Well, Pippa is getting a microwave. And Finn is getting a few things. He hasn't settled on one thing, but he's getting an inter-county jersey, and it's not Kilkenny.
All right. A Dubs jersey?
No.
A hurling or football?
Football.
Right.
Mayo.
All right.
Oh,
yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, so I'm very excited about that.
Controversial.
Well, sure, listen.
Is his mum from Mayo?
Off. No,
Just likes Mayo?
No. Likes Mayo.
You're that's not fair. Although I suppose you're from Kilkenny, so you can pick one losing team since you're guaranteed to be from a winning team anyway.
Well,
so.
that's not how bandwagons work. You're not supposed to pick a team who consistently loses.
Well, it's not like that at all, I suppose. We like the way they play. Keep coming back year after year, and they don't give up. And sure, maybe this year could be their year.
Jeez, the maturity in that fella, he's more mature than I am, I think.
That's false advertising. All right, if anybody wants to get in touch with us this morning, you can drop us a comment on any of the streams that we have. We have lots to get through. We're going to talk about Arsenal fans with Owen. We're going to talk about Tommy's 2018. We're going to look back on that. Paul Rouse is going to join us around about 8:45 to talk about Offaly in 1982. There's a new documentary out about the last time that the team was trying to do a 5-in-a-row in football, obviously, and how that failed. Oh, what happened? I don't remember what happened.
Neither do I. But I wasn't around. I've never heard of the year 1982 before.
Yeah.
It's just this black part of my memory that nobody's ever spoken to me about. I'm looking forward to reading the documentary to see what happens.
We hadn't even put this together, obviously, but now that you're here and we're talking about a 5-in-a-row later on, it's in the papers every day about the Dubs and the 5-in-a-row. They're all answering questions all the time about it, and it's like not even the actual year that they might be able to do it yet. That's not the easiest thing in the world to deal with.
Yeah, I suppose when we went for the 5-in-a-row, it was a bit different in that we went for the 3-in-a-row a few years previous, and that felt like the 5-in-a-row because it hadn't been done probably in so long, and it was new because it was hard to win one All-Ireland that time from the early 2000s. So this was 0-4, and with a big rivalry building up with Cork, and we tried to avoid it that year, not talk about it and just talk about this is just a new year. And I felt we learned from it the year, when we went for the 3-in-a-row a few years later and the 4-in-a-row, and I suppose we start talking about it and just didn't kind of leave it over as the big elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And just didn't make a big thing out of it. And we felt by doing that then, it was that bit easier. So we went on then, say 0-6-7, and we went for the 3-in-a-row and 0-8 then. It didn't feel like anything because we'd been there before, learned our lessons and just got on with it. If someone wanted to talk about it, we talk about it. And we'd say nothing. But you know yourself. And then the 4-in-a-row the same, but the 5-in-a-row then, it didn't impact us at all. I know we lost it, and even talking about it today, it doesn't really have too much of it's not a regret in my life. Some players maybe, but I felt we gave it everything. Like, there was huge crowds. We had, I think, 10,000 at one of the train sessions coming up to the 5-in-a-row. People were starting to blame that the hype was too much, but sure, that's what you're going to get when you're going for 5-in-a-row.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you rather be doing that than trying to win your first All-Ireland?
Yeah, and if you'd locked training that night and then no one had come in that night, are you going to win the game, really? I
don't think so. I think, again, you go out and you lose then the next Sunday, you're hiding away from the fact, and you went into your own little bubble. And I felt we embraced it. We still had savage training sessions that time. There wasn't too much tactics, I suppose, around then, so you didn't have to hide anything. There was no one trying to unorthodox. So we went out and we just lost the game. Like, we could have lost it the year before for the 4-in-a-row only for PJ Ryan was so brilliant on the goal.
Yeah.
So,
like, that's the way the Dubs are talking as well, that it's just another All-Ireland this year, and they really, I would be gobsmacked if the 5-in-a-row is actually mentioned voluntarily by any of the Dublin camp next year. And it seems that was the way with you guys as well.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to be afraid of it. Like, you see Diarmuid McConnelly last year wants to go to Boston. No problem. If that's what you want to do, off you go. The year before, I think it was in McCaffrey, or the year before that even. Well. Mannion wanted to go off touring the world. Off you go if that's what you want to do. We've another lad that'll come in and replace you. I thought, especially even last year, Brogan was on the bench after, we all thought coming back, was it one of the round robin games that they played in, he came on after his injury. Bernard broke him. We said, right, that's it, he'll be back on the team, maybe you're coming off. Didn't make the panel for the rest of the year. So I think Paul Flynn the same. We thought he'd be back for the big games. He came on and won the games, played really well, and started one of the games, played really well, but then didn't feature for the rest. So I think they just have a culture built in Dublin that just fight for your place in the team. So no one really has the chance to worry about a 5 in a row. Try and get on the team first. Like, was it a corner back last year? Was he doing stats the year before?
Martin.
In the All-Ireland. Suddenly he's playing the following year. So I think it's just the culture. They're lucky. They're not trying to keep the same 15 guys motivated. It's just, and who's going to step up and take their place. So I think Dublin are lucky in that sense.
And they have a bunch of players who are doing two in a row or 3 in a row, like who haven't played. So for Brian Howard, it's not 5 in a row. For who is like going to be a key player next year. For Colin Callahan.
Yeah.
Hurler of the year last year.
Brian Howard hasn't even done back-to-back All-Irelands. He's a complete failure.
So a couple of these to give away today. FIFA 19, just use the hashtag OTBFIFA, and we're going to give it away for the best comment this morning. There's 2 of them actually. So you'll have to be able to come into us to pick it up if you want to get it in time for Christmas, because there's no way that we're going to be able to put it through the post and get it to you. Yeah, it'll be a brilliant New Year's prize if we have to stick it in the post for you. But if you're like within an hour's radius of Marconi House in Diggs Lane in Dublin 2, then you'll be able to come in and pick it up. And
just on that, Ger, I remember before the real names were on FIFA. So when we had, it wouldn't have been the PlayStation, it could have been the Mega Drive at that time.
Yeah.
And remember I got FIFA for Christmas one year. Brazil, they had this lad called Janko Tiano. And you know, he was faster than everyone. And I think the following year then, you know, there was Roberto Carlos, but I don't know what his name was, but he was this really little fast lad. He was left back, so I used to always put him up as a striker. You'd always be guaranteed to win 8 or 9-0. But that was sweet. I remember Germany had this guy, I think his name was Bruce Macmillan. So maybe some of our listeners might remember some of them fake names, but
there's Pro Evolution then as well after that.
Pro Evo, yeah.
Couldn't use Liverpool or Everton. You had Liverpool, or you had Merseyside Reds and Merseyside Blues. And then there was one year EA made a Euro 2004 game, and they got all the rights except for the Dutch players. So instead of like coming up with a fake name for Edgar Davids, they just called him NED8, and then Edwin van der Sar was NED1, and like etc, which I thought was like the most uncreative thing of all time. But that's just like big throwback to Pro Evo. It's not really a contest anymore. FIFA's completely taken over. And
well, I was a Pro Evo man.
Were you? Yeah.
Yes. And I could be actually starting to mix up the two now that you say it, because I was a Pro Evo man. I definitely got the first FIFA, was Pro Evo man, but then it all started to change. Remember that time, again, I don't know now whether it was FIFA or Pro Evo, but you could go in and slide tackle the goalie.
Oh yeah.
You'd never get sent off. So it was brilliant. And then the referee used to run around after you, and you could spend 15 minutes running around, and the referee, it wouldn't stop until the referee caught you.
Yes, I remember that. That's one of the ones back in the 90s.
Yeah.
I remember that. And there was a kind of third player in the market then around 2003. You had This Is Football. Robbie Keane was on the cover of it, and it was the only soccer game I've ever played where you could dive. And I've never once successfully managed to trick the referee, which gave me a lesson that you've got to be an honest broker when it comes to sport. Important stuff.
Yeah, then you had Sensible Soccer. I think you could just see their heads.
The over-the-head camera, the drone footage. Right, so the newspaper headlines this morning: United hope Solskjaer can sway want-away stars to stay. The Man United board apparently think that the right man for the job when it comes to convincing Paul Pogba, David De Gea and Anthony Martial to commit their long-term futures is none other than a caretaker manager. So there is apparently going to be a slush fund of 50 million quid to buy players for the next manager, which seems weird. Why would
That's in January, is it?
Yeah. Why would you be buying players now that the next manager is going to come in and go, I don't want that guy?
Yeah. A big thing as well is, I think it was Mourinho himself said, like, in today's world, you have to pay crazy money for the top players, but you also have to pay a little less crazier, but still crazy money for the secondary players. So, like, if you want the top, like, it was different back in the day. If you had the top money, you got the top players.
Yeah.
But now you might be paying the top money for the secondary players, because, you know, you have the huge clauses, I suppose, in that.
Yeah.
50 million's one player. One player of Manchester United's starting 11 standard.
But they'd also, so if you look at what Liverpool did, they were buying a lot of 10 to 15 million pound players, and then they would fail. And so most of the players that they spent that money on under Brendan Rodgers failed. And then clubs started to sign some of those players, and then they stopped and they just spent, okay, let's just spend ridiculous money on Virgil van Dijk. And then he turned into the best defender in the world. And you're like, okay, maybe the absolute crazy money is worth it in the long run.
Yeah.
If you buy 5 players at 15, 20, 25, 35 million now who don't work out, or you buy £150 million player who really works out, which situation's better?
Well, I think when it comes to a defender, spending that money, you're going to get a bigger hit than not. Like, you think about the Virgil van Dijk reaction at the time, and people were saying this is lunacy. It was kind of like the Rio Ferdinand reaction when he joined from Leeds to Manchester United, saying £20 million is lunacy. Look how long he played for as one of the best Premier League defenders. So I think when it comes to a defender, like if you're spending 50 million quid and you're getting Raphael Varane or somebody, it's worth that money.
Yeah, but Varane's probably 100 now.
Yeah.
Ali's knockout blow, Delhi's dink seals Tottenham Cup win over bitter rivals Arsenal. Chelsea await in semi-finals. Beautiful goal from Dele Alli last night. The scumbag Arsenal fans throwing bottles at him. 2 Arsenal fans in the studio here.
It's a good shot, actually. Not Henrik Mkhitaryan, but the Arsenal fan who threw the bottle at Dele Alli. Dele Alli then went full Theo Walcott, going like this to the Arsenal fans, which, to be fair, was totally deserved.
Ah, yeah. There's this crazy reaction. Oh, did Dele Alli go too far? It's like,
no.
What? By responding to having a bottle thrown at him by pointing out the score.
Yeah, no, I was very pissed off to see an Arsenal fan do that, especially considering it was like, if you see it from the away fans, who were kind of like in this conclave of passion in the corner of a stadium, and it's like they do something stupid, it's never acceptable. But this is in your home ground where you're sitting in pretty good seats at the Emirates Stadium. Those people aren't really known as being thugs. You can call Arsenal fans a lot of things, but rarely can you call those people in that part of the Emirates Stadium thugs. So it was just really unusual, and Dele Alli was dead right to kind of stick it up to them. Piers Morgan then in the aftermath had to wear a Spurs jersey doing the draw on Sky Sports. Worst moment of his life, he said.
Can you hear stuff from the crowd when you're playing?
No, not the big games, no, because it's just a wall of ice, which I'm sure it's like that. I know that was a League Cup game last night, but presumably it was a sellout. But
seemed
I hardly know what the Arsenal fans. Some of them probably bought tickets and didn't show up, you know.
So yeah, I was in the Emirates last year, 2 years ago, for Arsenal and Chelsea.
Dodgy, was it?
Like, I was down near the Chelsea fans, and so like it is definitely hot and heavy between the two fans when you're close enough. But you know, it was tough. Like, you'd be glad, you know, the way the GA fans kind of are all together.
Yeah.
Like it would, and you know, there's always a bit of kind of garbage being shouted even at GA matches, but it's generally not too bad. But gee, it was tough now at this, and you know, you'd been saying a bottle being thrown, you know, you wouldn't be surprised.
No.
But and they're all look like not ordinary Joes, like they seemed decent people. But
the GA fans tend to say stuff about their own team as opposed to the opposition. Solskjaer gets United job in loan deal. This is the detail emerging yesterday that Molde are taking cash payment for the privilege of loaning Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to Manchester United for 5 or 6 months. There's the picture of the bottle hitting the back of Dele Alli's head. And Jim Gavin has signed up to the Dubs for another 3 years. His deal, which was due to extend to the end of 2019, has now been extended to the end of 2021. Even if Jim Gavin doesn't intend to stay to 2021, it's like just a good idea to roll this on into the future, and then at any point that he wants to, he can step down. So there's no sense of him like, oh, this is my last year. There's never, you know.
He's never the story.
Yeah.
No, and even you go back to Ferguson that time when he said in United, you know, it's this is my last year, and the wheels came off the cart, like. And I think it's just kind of, any young player comes in now, says, right, Gavin's here for another 3 years, I need to step it up here.
Yeah.
And as you said, I think you're dead right. It just gives a belief and a security and that to the whole system. And I think Dublin, like, that was always the thing. If they got things right, how good were they going to become?
Yeah.
And they have things right now, and they just seem to be rolling and rolling and rolling.
Yeah, it's hard to see anybody getting close to them.
Kerry, you think, can't bet youth. And if you've youth coming, the way Kerry are coming, not saying they're going to win it this year, but they're coming, like, and they're going to beat someone soon. Like, is it 5 in a row minors, never done before? Like, it's crazy, really, because minor are so hard to win. Like, and if Dublin are so dominant, like, how is they not competing with them minors? Because they still have the same population, you know, as they have for their seniors. So I think they're winning, and Kerry, they do things right. Like anyone in Kerry growing up, Barry in North Kerry, grows up with football from 3-4 years of age, and you just can't beat that. I was reading a bit about Tiger Woods there the other day. I think, is there a new book coming out about him or that, or a memoir or something, and Earl, his father, had him out driving balls like from 2, and had called down some TV station to have a look at him when he was very young as well, 3 or 4 maybe.
Yeah.
And like, it just goes to show, like, he came out was practicing 2 hours a day. Now, I know you have to have talent as well, but Kerry are going to have talent. Plus you have guys kicking balls since they're 3-4 years of age.
Yeah.
So listen, Kerry will come, and so will other teams, but skill, I think, is still the reason why. Dublin are brilliant skillfully. And
you're loving this.
Oh, well, he's just speaking the truth. Absolutely bang on the money there.
Kerry,
yeah, absolutely. I do think 2019 is just maybe a step too soon. I think Dublin are going to win the 5 in a row. I'd be, like we said it this time last year, that there was every possibility that 2018 would have been Dublin's easiest All-Ireland. That proved to be true. I'm not sure has the tide turned beyond the point of not only taking it back to Dublin actually having to struggle for an All-Ireland, but to the point where they actually don't win the All-Ireland. I still think that there is a bit of a distance between them and the rest. 2020 though, that's the All-Ireland I'm looking at right now.
Had this story here from Jason Burton, Matt Law, that says Manchester United are going to pay €42 million to secure Maurizio Pochettino. This is like just not planning properly. Let's try and find our own good manager, somebody else, the next Pochettino, and spend that 42 million on a player.
Let Daniel Levy do all that work. Let him do all the grafting when it comes to scouting a manager. They need somebody who is trusted, who is on the upward trajectory, which Maurizio Pochettino still is. If Jose Mourinho has taught them anything, it is that managers can be like players, that they have a peak, that they can get to the top of that bell curve and then they can fall off a cliff. And I think Jose Mourinho's career, we'll see with the next job, and we won't know until the next job, but it seems that he might have fallen off that cliff as a manager. So Maurizio Pochettino isn't anywhere near that peak, or maybe he is, but either way, he's in a much better position than Jose was. You've got to, like, 42 million for Pochettino, you pay that any day of the week.
Just there's loads of other managers out there who are just as good.
But we don't know that. They can't afford to take that risk now.
But I don't know if it's nailed on. I just think that we'll see. Walsh has rare Limerick festive visit for Get a Bird. So it looks like Ruby Walsh is going to head to Limerick on St. Stephen's Day to try and win the Grade 1 Matchbook Betting Exchange Novice Chase with Get a Bird. So obviously Ruby fancies that.
Next page of the Herald this morning is Solskjaer is Reds reboot. New boss expected to unite troubled club. You also have that story as well on the back of the Herald, obviously, that Jim Gavin signs up with the Dubs until 2021. Back of the Mirror is Ole's got the lolly. United's caretaker will have £50 million to splurge next month in pursuit of top 4 place. You can see Jose Mourinho there on the back of the paper with a Harrods bag in hand. Doorstepped by Sky Sports News yesterday, said he had nothing to say after his Manchester United departure.
Where's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer staying?
What's the name? At the Lowry Hotel. And what part of the Lowry Hotel is he staying in? The exact same suite that Jose Mourinho stayed in. Which I don't know why, it just makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Just to reiterate, Jose Mourinho was doorstepped outside his house in London. He's been living in a hotel in Manchester, which is like an hour and a half away on the train, 2 hours away in the fast train, and you can fly up and down. But he's been living in a hotel in Manchester and his family stayed in London. It's
a pretty nice hotel.
You'd swear that he'd moved to a club in Russia or somewhere and he has to live in a hotel. Well, can he not commute to London?
Maybe Manchester's just a terrible place for a family.
Well, he mightn't want to uproot him, but as you said, the best thing probably would have been to
commit to the city. Yeah.
Well, you see, and the one thing about Mourinho is, like, in his early years, he was brilliant. Like, everyone kind of, loved him and his confidence and his arrogance, everything. But he was good to kind of deal with. But the last few years, it was kind of, everyone was negative and bitterness and all that. And if he's away from the family and the kids, he seems to be close to the very good family man, and that, maybe that, the balance in his life maybe mightn't have been, what it should be. And maybe he would be better off, living at home when he is managing and
getting a job in London.
Yeah.
Like just on that Lowry Hotel thing, Ed Woodward and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer met there yesterday. What is their obsession with this hotel? There's clearly some sort of commercial agreement
good
here.
Hotel
like, do they not have a training ground or I don't know,
an office?
An office.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do. Why has the Lowry suddenly become the centre of all operations? But I actually just looked at it before we came on air. If you want to get the cheapest double room in the Lowry for tonight, it's £175. The one, the suite that I suspect Jose was staying in will cost you £715 for the night. So just in case you're interested, Tommy. Back page of the Sun is he effed with the wrong baller, gloating Pogba's farewell to Axe Mourinho. Pogba saying you shouldn't have messed with me to his teammates. Delhi hit by bottle as well, we can see there, and Alex Ferguson is given the backing to get Pochettino. Back page of the Mail then is Make Us United. Woodward urges Solskjaer to try and heal wounds, while Gavin to carry on at Dublin helm until 2021. And the back page of the Guardian finally is Common Touch. Solskjaer's mission is to pacify big name trio. And there is Dele Alli celebrating after dinking the ball beautifully over the head of Peter Cech. They beat Arsenal 2-0 last night.
Yeah, okay. So Yannick Fjørtoft was on with Dave last night talking about the task ahead of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Man United. Have a look.
Well, I guess everybody who saw Manchester United on Sunday against Liverpool saw that must be, and I'm 51, I think that's the weakest performance I've ever seen of a Manchester United team ever. There was no pattern. You can say there was only, it was not like a 3-4-0, but still, it was a terrible performance of Manchester United. I think that the players now have the chance to show, well, they have been hitting or hiding behind Mourinho and said that the camp is not good. What Ole Gunnar has to go into that dressing room to say to them, look, you're Manchester United players. This is embarrassing. And Ole Gunnar will tell them that. That is not what I expected from Manchester United. I remember my time in England. We played against Manchester United and we were 1-0 when the game started. And this Manchester United team, now you expect to go to Old Trafford and get something out of the game. And as you're talking about the defence, look at Liverpool this season. They still got the 3-4 up front who will score goals for them. But look at the defence. They've tightened up the defence. And the Manchester United defence, I can play them now. I'm on 51 and I would score goals.
Yeah, Jan Aga Fjørtoft speaking to Dave about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's appointment in the interim as Manchester United manager. So we're just going to turn to the Arsenal match last night as well, and the best analysis we can offer you this morning is, as always, from the Arsenal fans who are keeping their shit together. I think it's fair to say they're not panicking whatsoever. Scrolling through Facebook, people are definitely not overreacting to last night's win, especially not this guy who says Unai is shit, I miss Wenger. That one got almost 800 likes, so there's clearly a lot of Wenger, a lot of love Wenger in sentiment. And this Arsenal fan goes into more detail. So he says, I don't see any difference between Emery and Wenger. Still same shit. Losing small and big team. Still top 5. Concern more goals. Bad tactics. Going with worst small child Guendouzi. I don't even know where he from. Why Lacazette is always on the bench. Why Ozil is always absent. Why? Iwobi and Mickey are the worst. Interesting, well thought out hypothesis from that particular Arsenal fan. I know what you're asking though, is Unai Emery the worst Arsenal manager of all time? But is he potentially the worst Emery of all time is what I'm asking, because this next Arsenal fan certainly thinks so. He says, worst Emery. Wrong player in the wrong position in a big game. This kind of team Emery started won't get us win Premier League, nor into the Champions League spots. Hashtag Emery out. You're probably sitting there and thinking, who does Unai Emery remind you of? Well, there's only one manager he reminds me of, and this particular Arsenal fan reminded me of that. This Emery guy is no different to Moyes, benching your best players just because you want to prove a point. Nothing can ever justify starting Iwobi ahead of Ozil and Laka. The less I say about playing Xhaka as a centre-back, the better. But then if you hop over to Twitter, things got a little bit more heated, particularly people just turning on their caps lock. This particular Arsenal fan said, the most pathetic performance I've seen from top to bottom. Wrong tactics. We've gone back to our usual style of play. Sideways football. We need a big clear out this January of deadwood players. That's not doing us no good and holding us back to progress. Overall pathetic. And then this Arsenal fan issued a pretty serious ultimatum. Start winning or we riot. Which obviously sounds like a terrifying prospect. And then finally, this commenter on Facebook says, some of the Arsenal supporters are so idiot, which I think is a bit harsh. Some edgy analysis there from Arsenal fans.
But bang on at the end. Let's talk hurling. Tommy Walsh is with us so we can have a look back at the 2018 year that was. Limerick's victory, I think, was kind of the perfect end to one of the most perfect hurling seasons that there's ever been. If you think back to even this time 18 months ago, there was a real fear that the Super 8s was going to lead to the entire hurling season being overshadowed. And then the reverse happens. The hurling gets out first, reminds everybody what a great sport it is, has a bunch of games that end in draws or that have 1-point wins, and it suddenly seems like there's a level playing field. And I don't know, it may well have been one of the greatest hurling seasons of all time.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd say in my lifetime anyway, it was probably because there were so many teams involved with a realistic chance of winning it. And you go back to where did it all begin? It all began with the Super 8s. I think the Super 8s had not come in, we still would have went with the same structures as previous years. But I suppose the hurling fraternity got a little bit scared. It was on all the papers, all the stations, how many football games were going to be on from, we'll say, June, July on, and how many hurling games. And they just kind of rushed in. I don't even know how they did it, probably some emergency meeting or that, these new round robin Leinster and Munster championships, and they just exploded from there. Now, they are very lucky in the fact that there's so many good teams at the moment. Like, you look at Munster, all the 5 teams could win it. You look at Leinster, we'll say last year, we'll say bar Offaly. The other four teams could have won the Leinster Championship last year. So that's 9 out of 10 teams had a realistic chance of winning their championship. So, and then just, as you said, there were so many games so tight, it just exploded. And like, what does everyone love? Like, you remember when Clare won it in 95, when Wexford won in 96, when someone that hasn't won it in so long, it's a fairy tale story. And there were so many other stories in the whole Limerick victory, other than just that final whistle going.
Yeah, it kind of felt like it needed Limerick. Pardon me, it needed Limerick to win for it to be crowned greatest year of all time. If Galway had won, it would have still been a brilliant year, and they would have had to be deserving champions to do it. And obviously, then they would have been a great team too, because they'd gone back to back. But just having Limerick make that breakthrough is special.
Yeah, and like, you know, that I often said about the 94 Limerick team. Like, they were my favourite team growing up. One of my favourite teams, I'd say probably my favourite. Like, I remember all the players, like, we'd be watching matches of a Sunday. You'd go out at half time, you'd be waiting for half time, you'd go out and take frees like Gary Kirby.
Yeah.
You'd switch over the hands and all. You have the left hand down at the bottom. And, you know, Kieran Carey, Mike Hoolan used to have the collars up.
Yeah.
And they were just, Ger Hegarty, like, they were just a brilliant team. Remember Damien Quigley scored a goal in the 94 final against Offaly, where he dived in. I think he was on Shane McGuckie and was cornerback for Offaly. And did everything right, but he dived in and was able to flick the ball into the corner. I remember trying that, nearly puncturing my lung, I'd say, for a few weeks after that, doing that dive on the hard ground. And so they were the great fairy tale team, but they never won it. So was this team going to be something like that, where they'd all heroes over the summer, but they were able to go on then and finish it off? And I'm sure the memories of that 94 thing probably pushed them on that, listen lads, let's make it happen. And like, even at the end, like Tom Condon, who's been such a warrior for so long, came out with that last ball that Joe Canning, you know, it dropped short. And he came out with, like, a, you know, real tough corner back, and has been there a good few years. Richie McCarthy, like, we hadn't seen much of him all summer. You know, I suppose we all love Richie McCarthy. He's your old school fullback, comes out, drives 3 lads out over the line, then clears the ball, you know. And he came on in the final and played a brilliant role in the last 20 minutes. So I think, yeah, it was just a fairy tale stuff for Limerick to go on and win it.
The other thing that happened was that the style of play, it can go either way. You know, there had definitely been a move towards more sweepers and a more defensive style, and just trying to close down space in a way that we hadn't seen. But there was a reaction to that this year, in that the forwards and the teams who wanted to create space were more successful than the teams who wanted to deny space.
They were, and I think that's been the saving grace for hurling the last few years, that when they did come to the big games, when they did come to the real, you know, nitty-gritty part of the championship against the top teams, they were the teams that were winning, the team playing the attacking style. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go all out attacking. Like, you often I've seen Kyle Hayes back clearing balls on his full backline, half backline. So you go back, but get back up. You don't, you know, leave. Like, you look at any of the teams that were playing with their sweeper systems, like, you know, Wexford, you've Watford, Offaly played against one of the teams with, it could have been the year before, I'm not sure, with 5, with only 4 forwards. But the forwards have poor years.
Yeah.
You know, they really do. They struggle, because if they don't win that ball first time, lads are just coming in, take the ball off them.
Yeah.
It's not really a 50-50 ball. So I think then, when you go man on man, now, as I said, you go back and defend, help out your defence as well. But when you get back up then, well then, you know, you're making the other team think. And we're very lucky, I think, with hurling, because that's the game we love watching, and that's the one that's successful. So you know, more power to it.
At the same time, you think of one of the great games of the summer, the Clare-Galway first game in Croke Park, and one of the biggest tactical features of that was Colin Gavin deployed as a sweeper. Has there been an alteration in terms of how teams are actually approaching the sweeper? Unless you're playing two, it seems that the way the sport is, it's pretty easy to get around it.
Yeah, well, there's so much analysis now that depends on your own team too. Like, you're playing a team next Sunday. You're probably going to look at every individual player in their backline, what way to clear a ball, and that's probably determine how you're going to pick your sweeper. Like, one time a sweeper was you just pick probably your best hurling guy, put him as the spare man and just let him off you go. But now I'm sure that you're saying, listen, if we'll say if they're playing, say, Galway and Pádraig Mannion gets the ball, well, 9 times out of 10 this is what he does with it. So the sweeper knows where to go. So I just think tactics is, you have to adapt, you have to go at the times. So I'm not saying that you go out and just tell your lads on you go. You have to have some sort of plan for whoever you're playing the Sunday. So I think it's the ability to adapt. So there could be some stage where you might need to employ a sweeper for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on who you're playing on, or whether you're winning or whether you're losing. But I think it's your ability to adapt against the team you're playing. I think that will prove to be successful in whatever team you're playing with.
In terms of highlights over the course of the year, apart from Limerick winning and the style of play that they had, what else sticks out for you?
Well, one of them happened only a few weeks ago, and that was Ballygunner. You know, like, the heartbreak, them guys, now they're after winning a lot of Waterford titles. They have a big population as well, but I'd be down around Waterford a good bit, and the work they're putting in is incredible, you know, from under probably fives, I'd say, right up to senior level. They're a real kind of, although they're kind of just outside the town, they're kind of a town club, they seem to have a country spirit to them.
Yeah.
And you've seen the heartbreak that they're after having, like, a county final, no matter what they say, that was on the way to winning a Munster or a Club All-Ireland. The Munster was the big thing. And, you know, they won one back in, I think it was 2001, and have lost, was it 7 finals or 5 finals since? And it's grand when it's in something new and you just go on and you get beaten. You say, listen, sure, we're in bonus territory anyway. But they put everything into winning it. And time after time, they just came up that little bit short. And they were beating big teams, but then on the final hurl, they were getting beaten. So I thought, just seeing their celebrations, seeing what they went through and their interviews after it, the Ballygunner victory for me was one of the highlights of the year.
The club obviously makes it a little bit more special. Like, there was, I don't know, there was kind of more of a united feel to say the Limerick thing this year than perhaps other inter-county wins we've seen in previous years. But it still comes back to the idea that once you get into the winter hurling, you're going to get the better stories, you're going to get the real community stories that kind of go along with something like Ballygunner.
Yeah, and I suppose the dark nights and, you know, the wintry evenings and the wintry weekends, like, they make for it as well, because what else would you be doing? So everyone just goes and they watch TG Carr every Sunday, or they go to the match, or there could be under 21 championships, so you're at them on a Saturday and watch one on the telly on the Sunday, or you might even go to it if you can. So I think the club campaign from, we'll say, August, September on to before Christmas is one of the magical times of the year, because everyone is so enthralled, because, you know, you're not off on your holidays, you don't have much other things to do, only watch it or be at them games. So, you know, we've seen the football there, the team Mullinachta, was it?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that was
great story.
You know, we all watched and followed that story for weeks before, and the team up in Donegal as well, Guiador. It was a Guiador won it, and you know, we were following there.
Have you ever gone on the beer as hard as Guiador went on the beer?
We have, but lucky enough there was no Twitter around, so no one else saw it. But I suppose, coming from a player's perspective and winning things and losing things, magical. I thought it was magical, and just the scene, the way they were celebrating and just hugging each other and enjoying each other's company for the few days after. And, you know, I was following them. You know, I seen Kevin Cassidy's interview before or after the county final, and he was saying they learned from their county final, and was it 0-6? They didn't celebrate too much, so they just said it'd wait till after the Ulster. Well, I loved it, you know, and I thought, that's why, what's the point in playing sport if you can't celebrate it? And that's what it's all about, like, because in 20 years' time, the memories they'll have will be incredible. So yeah, no, it's a magical time of the year for the club. These, you know, 3 or 4 months before Christmas, I think the whole country kind of waves in on it. And fair play to TG Carr, because without them, like, where would we be? Because it's the promotion, really, of any sport.
Yeah, totally.
See the darts, or...
Don't mention the war.
Ger hates darts.
Right, yeah.
That's pure sport.
But the way they promote it, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah.
Club G,
It's just promotion.
Like the two greatest stories of 2018 have been Guido and Rob Cross winning the World Darts Championship. That's not true. Is it possible that 2018 has actually made you love Gaelic games more? Like, I didn't think you could possibly get into a situation where you could love Gaelic games and hurling in particular more than you already did, but this year has been a strange year.
Yeah, it has. It hasn't. I don't think that could happen. I think I love it as much as you could possibly love it. So, but it does. Like, I love being, say, a part of it as regards playing in it. As much as watching it is great, but I do think that to be involved in it, whether that's as a water carrier, as a selector, as a manager, as a physio, as just to be part of it, is even more special. So if you're watching these club campaigns, or the Limerick, the Limerick win in the All Ireland, like, and if you see all the boys around it, not just the players, not just the manager, but the management teams or people that are closely involved with it, the enjoyment they're getting out of it is even another level again. So what I would hope is that we keep remembering that yes, it's great as a supporter and we love it, but what's even more special is to be part of it and to be involved in it in some way. So yeah, no, it has actually been a hectic few months.
Did you think, say, obviously the club was very different, but when it came to actually playing with Kilkenny, that you appreciated it as much as you could have? Like, did you kind of soak it in as much as you could have when you realised that you were part of one of the greatest teams of all time? Yeah,
we did, because we were lucky enough, whilst with the media we weren't, too open, or like, we had great crack, and the characters we had on our team were huge characters, and we just never allowed that into, giving interviews because we wanted to win. But like, our dressing rooms were epic, after training, before training, while we took training serious, around that, even after our victories and our losses, our winters, we were very close. Like, we were like a club team, really. Like, whilst you didn't have to be best friends with everyone, like, you had great friends in there that it was like they were your school friends. And we were lucky enough that I wouldn't look back and say, right, because Brian Cody, probably his mantra going in was that he'd create a spirit that couldn't be broken. We all know that at this stage. So that was our number one, and the winning came after that, made it that bit more special. But we kind of honed in on that, on having great, like, we used to go off to Carton House for weekends. We used to have, first of all, we used to have soccer games, and that had to be banned because it was getting a bit rough. So we ended up having penalty shootouts, and you'd be a crack going on. The whole 2 weeks before Carton House would be the draws for the penalty shootouts, the draws for this, and we ended up having North versus South, all this kind of a thing. So I think we just enjoyed, I know we talk about journeys and that, but the journey was unreal as well. And listen, it was topped off by the victories, but it was still, if we had never have won, there were special times. So no, I'd say we enjoyed everything we could, and we're lucky.
Who could take the best penalty in that Kilkenny team?
Well, who would you say won the penalty shootout? The first one? If you had to make a guess.
Henry? Who
wins everything? So, steps up, bang, 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 goes home with, I think we had, what was it? It wasn't a microwave, it was something like that we had sponsored from Sean Son Electrical in Carlow, a great kind of a retailer below in Carlow, and he sponsored, David Herity got onto him, and he sponsored I can't remember now, it could have been a television or something like that. And Sir Henry won it, we were maybe thinking a young lad might won it that's going to college or something like that, but the king, and it was a great shootout now, in fairness.
And who's in goals? Are the goalkeepers in goals?
No, it was a different lad every time.
Right.
So I think we had a North versus South, so if a North lad was taking it, to be a South lad in goal. Okay. And like, we had great rivalry that time in the panel between the North and the South, and we used to always say when the North was going well, Kilkenny were going well, and the South lads didn't like that, but it was just banter, banter. So I don't know, it could have been Jackie or someone could have been on goal, because Henry was obviously the South, so, but he tucked it away anyway. When
you talk about being involved, obviously you had some injury problems across the year that didn't let you play as much as you wanted to, but you were back Were you back fully fit in time for the county final?
Ah, yeah, I know. I was fully fit all year, except for it was the in-betweeners. I wasn't. So as regards between matches, like, you know, you're training. I'm trying to learn. I have to try and learn now how to manage my body right. As regards, stay tough, stay focused, but also not be stupid.
Yeah.
As regards, because, you know,
stuff that you did when you were younger, you get away with. Now you don't.
Yeah. Well, I still feel that when I go to the physio, I'm better off staying away from him. So you're just better off getting through it, and it kind of just heals itself after a while. And so I learned that again during the summer. I had to take a few. I hurt my knee, did medial ligaments in my knee. So, like, you know, you will gather from talking from since I started with yourselves that it wasn't just the big matches that I loved. I loved the Welsh Cup and all that. So this year was a tough year playing regards. I was missing a lot of the smaller games, and I was missing a lot of the training sessions where I had to pull in and out of them. So it was a tough year that way. And I didn't really enjoy it from regards a playing point of view, because you're playing with injuries and you can't really give it everything, like, you know, and you're pulling out with tackling sessions and that, because, you know, I had a problem with my shoulder as well. And but like for games, I was perfect.
Yeah.
You know, it was just the preparation. Now maybe that's what you need at, you know, 35, 36 years of age, that keeps you fresh going into the game. So like the games itself I enjoyed.
Yeah.
But it was just the lead up to them, the trainings were tough.
Is the county final a lowlight, or has it become something that's just part of your life now, that you lost one that it feels like maybe you left behind?
Well, I spent, since 2000 trying to get to a county final. So 2018 it is now, and I got to one, was beaten. But I remember going into semi-finals that time when the Shamrocks were going well, and Cha was flying in midfield, Henry, TJ, Michael Darmley, a guy I lived with in college, playing wing back, and they're always in semi-finals and finals, and we were being knocked out in first rounds.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, just let me be involved in these semi-final days, and, you know, that's all you want, so you're not looking in, wishing you were there. And for the last few years we're intermediate, and we've got the chance to be in semi-finals, and this year a final. So it was brilliant to get to it, and definitely, you know, a tough loss, you know, to get beaten. That, you know, yourself, we were playing against our biggest rivals, and I would probably have a bigger rivalry than most with them, because you know, last house in Tullaroan and right on the border. So it was a tough loss, but we'll get over it. Like, we were there before, you know, and, you know, our fathers, our uncles, our grandfathers, resilient. It's a resilient place, small little parish, like, but, you know, it's different now is that we've a great culture at the moment. We're after building the last probably 4 or 5 years. When we were senior, we were only winning one match a year, and it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough to keep things going. Since we went back intermediate, it's like it reinvigorated the whole place. So from under sevens right up to intermediate, the place is buzzing. And
because they get to come and watch you win matches as well.
They're watching it all year round.
Yeah.
And and the Camogie club is flying it. Like, they won the under 12 Ryan this year, 2 in a row.
Right.
And small place, as I said, we won the under 21 Ryan B this year, Camogie. Won the under 17 Hurling. So like, it's vibrant in the parish at the moment, and it's not just the hurling. Like, it's the whole community at the moment. Like, we've a racquetball club in Tullaroan now. We've an athletics club, and this is all in the hurling field.
Right.
So we've the soccer club started back up this year. We've the athletics club. We have the ladies, kind of mothers and others. So like, everything in Tullaroan now is revolving around the field.
Yeah.
And it's a great time to be.
Why did that happen? What changed to bring everybody back?
I think just the people, hard work, and I suppose winning stuff then does.
It helps.
No, as you said, like, although we haven't been winning championships, we've been winning games. So when young fellas of 10, 12 years of age are going to watch games, you're winning, right? They're going back then winning. So their parents, who mightn't be involved in either, are on the high because their children are enjoying it. And it just kind of snowballs from there. And like our Camogie club, the girls won the intermediate 3 or 4 years ago, Kilkenny, and then won the Leinster.
Right.
And they're, you know, young Maloney that plays football and hurling for the Tipperary, brilliant player, is part of that great Tipperary football team. She was on the care team to beat them narrowly in a semi-final. So like, all this then feeds in because it's the same families.
Yeah, of course.
And Camogie, hurling, you know, and I think just everyone then develops a work ethic from that. And we've a great kind of say, if your county boards in the inter-county, the club version of that, the commissions or whatever, very hard working, they're driving everything on.
Yeah.
And I think just everything then, it's all you're geared by your environment then. And
It was interesting to see Henry step into club management so seamlessly. I mean, I think a lot of people expected it would happen.
Yeah.
Is that something that you think that a lot of your teammates are actually going to end up doing, that because that culture was so self-generating, that actually there's a lot of managers in waiting on amongst your peers?
Yeah, well, I think what it is most of them are addicted to the game or addicted to competing. Like even in school, like I was in school with, say, Jackie and Hoagie and a few more of them, even off the field, just very competitive guys. And sure, this is what they know best. So a lot of them are going through their last probably 5 years now of hurling. So it'll all start dropping off probably over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So I think slowly then you'll see as they finish their hurling careers, they will get into the management careers without a shadow of a doubt. I'd say most of them. And that's the subs as well. Like even the subs of them for years, I've seen a lot of them in club management now. PJ Delaney and a few more. Sure, you see David Herity. So yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, they will get into it, and their success then will, I suppose, a lot will depend on the teams they're with as well.
And the quality of players coming through.
Quality of players.
Yeah, I expected to be able to drive things on. Is that something you were interested in? Because like you're coaching kids already. Is this something that you're thinking, actually, because you say about being addicted to it, it's clear you are.
Yeah.
So is that something that's in your head at some point?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like Simon Malton, who'll be the chairman of our board in Oak. So when I started getting involved, he said, listen, just one word of advice, if you're doing something, do it well. So I had to make the decision then, like, do we get into it and play, and then something's going to give, can you do either of them well?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm involved with the under sevens, that it allows me, that's a Monday night, that allows me to be involved in helping the underage players, but also 100% focus on hurling, because I want to hurl, as I said before, till I'm 40.
Yeah.
And try and be, on the team in 40, and that's year to year. I mightn't be on it this year.
Yeah.
So you have to give everything to be there. So I won't be getting involved until...
When do you go back out to being a midfielder whose job it is just to pass the ball and hit ball in? When does that happen?
Yeah, I don't think that you can do that anymore, because midfielders are expected to be in the full back line and the full forward line. So
You could be old school.
Oh yeah, you could be. Yeah. But I will see. But yeah, in a few years, now you will see. I would predict success for some of them guys, like I said, Jackie,
Yeah.
JJ, Taggy, Heroes already here. We've seen what Henry is doing.
Yeah.
So I'd say,
Like you talk about their competitiveness. Is there a situation where 5-10 years down the line, it's the situation where off the field there's this unbelievable race to become Kilkenny manager? Like, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves quite a bit there, but if they're bringing that level of competition to their off the field careers, then you'd imagine that would be the case. They've all got their minds on one job and one job only.
yeah, Henry definitely will. They will. Yeah, absolutely.
Who's the most suited?
Well, sure, I'd say Henry will get it at some stage. It depends on what happens over the next few years. A few of them. Now, there's a lot of good guys there in Kilkenny as well at the moment that are involved in underage setups that will throw their hats, in time. And I suppose, let's give it time when the job does become available. That could be a few years' time. I wouldn't like to be pushing anyone into it at this time, but I'd say Henry, like, he's won in his first year, so not bad, and he's still going. And just a team, like, I think they were in the Club All Ireland was in 2015.
Yeah.
And they've 7 guys gone off that team.
I didn't realise there's so much turnover, yeah.
So
That's actually the question. Who is the most competitive out of your great Kilkenny team? Like, who's the fella who would do anything to win more than any other player? Is it Henry?
no, there's a good few of them in it. That's
Hard to pick between them.
You couldn't. There's so many of them. Like Taggy's an incredible competitor, like, all in different ways, like some in their quiet ways, some in their big ways. Taggy was an incredible, like, JJ would be very kind of softly spoken, but the competitive competitors, all them guys I spoke about, like, they are, by from talking to them. I don't think any one of them really stood out, like David Herity, PJ Delaney, all guys who just, would do anything to win,
Well, undoubtedly we're going to do some of your highlights. We've got some videos for them, which we'll play in a little while. But undoubtedly one of our highlights was you picking up the IMRO Radio Award 2018 for Newcomer, and we haven't had the chance to present it to you yet.
Thanks very much.
Congratulations.
Yeah, Great.
Couldn't make it. The awards, we arranged it so the awards day would be in Kilkenny, but couldn't come because it was training.
Do you have an acceptance speech ready?
No, thanks. No, it is an honour, absolute honour, because you know, I suppose didn't expect to be involved in radio, never mind winning an award, but it was probably summed up by a former, I won't say who it was, but a former inter-county manager said to me, he just said, well done on the job you're doing in the radio. He said, you don't speak the language, he said, that is in the Oxford English Dictionary, but you speak our language. So I say, listen, sure, that probably sums it up, because in fairness to you guys, you kind of leave me at it, and you know, so it's a team effort, and we're all part of it, you know, we kind of rub off each other, and I think that's the main thing. We enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, good stuff. We'll talk more about some of the highlights a little bit later on, but we want to move on to our next item, because Paul Rouse is going to join us in studio to talk about a new documentary that's out about the greatest All-Ireland football final. One of the greatest All-Ireland football finals ever. The second best team in history being denied the opportunity to do its 5 in a row. That's how we're phrasing this one while Owen's in the room. Anyway, look, before we talk through that, here's Kieran Cunningham on a pretty interesting selection in the Tyrone side this weekend.
Your next story is significant because I've seen this kid and he's something else.
Yeah, Peter Canovan's son Dara is on the Tyrone bench for their McKenna Cup game against Derry tomorrow evening. Cooney as well starts for the Red Hand for the first time in 3 years.
That's a very interesting call as well. Like, Cooney was a huge talent, and he did not see eye to eye with Mickey Hart. So it's interesting that Mickey Hart is kind of thinking, I might need this guy.
Did he do a very interesting piece at some stage over the course of the year where he kind of talked about how he fell down the pecking order and maybe hadn't lived up to his potential?
Yeah, I can't remember who wrote it. Like,
maybe he took the wrong turn here and there, and he's getting another chance. Which is
anybody does a quick Google search, I found it was a good interview. I can't remember who wrote it now, but I've seen Dara Canavan play live, and I've seen a couple of video clips on him, and he's very young, but he's going to be sensational.
Is he cut from a similar cloth to his father?
Absolutely.
So he's an inside forward.
Well, play anywhere in the forward line, but these days that means you could end up at wing back. To be honest, like you would say, Ryan McHugh's a natural forward, but he plays wing back. That's the job. That's the kind of way the game's gone.
Peter Canavan wouldn't even make the Tyrone team if he started out.
But he's so elusive, and he has that hardiness that Peter had. Like because Peter in the 90s was getting serious punishment in the north, as you can imagine, and on the killing fields, Ulster football. But Dara has that hardiness as well.
Yeah, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. Dara Canavan, they're talking about there. Carl Cooney also back in the Tyrone team this weekend, so plenty to look forward to. In the meantime, Paul Rouse is here. How are you?
Fine, thanks, Ger. How are you?
Good. So we have you here to talk about the documentary, the end of the 5 in a row. Owen's didn't really want to do this item, doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't think the year 1982 actually exists as a moment in time in history. Before we get to that though, I do want to talk about your book, because obviously the Hurlers, we had you in to talk about this on the radio, so there's a podcast out there, but how's it going? And there's a crossover here obviously.
Well, there's a crossover, I suppose, because Tullaroan are in it. Tullaroan competed in the first Kilkenny Championship and won the first Kilkenny Championship, and went out and played Thurles, the champions of Tipperary. Sorry about this. Went out and played Thurles, the champions of Tipperary, in the All-Ireland quarter-final, and didn't score. And were beaten by 3-7 to no score, but won the first Kilkenny Championship at a time when football was the dominant game in Kilkenny. So 19 clubs entered the first Kilkenny Football Championship, and only 4 entered the first Hurling Championship. So it was, and Kilkenny won a Leinster Football Championship before they won a Leinster Hurling Championship, because the first All-Ireland Championship was open draw.
I didn't know
that. So it was,
Hurlers were all farming.
Working, playing cricket. And they were actually playing cricket. The Mars in Tullaroan, all the huge cricket area. There were a couple of cricket clubs in Tullaroan, but everything changed in the late 1890s and into the 1900s, and Kilkenny began their imperial reign, which has lasted ever since.
Yeah, and the book's going well.
It's flying. Yeah, thank you. I'm delighted.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Every hurling fan should definitely get a copy of it. So this documentary about this Offaly team, we've heard so much in the past about that Kerry team, because they have been really the first great modern football team, and Heffo's Army obviously helped to inspire the mythology around them, but that Offaly team was an absolutely sensational team as well.
It's an unbelievable team. It's time stopped in Offaly in September 1982. You can say 1982 doesn't exist. I say football ended in 1982. If you watch the video of that game, still, and you look at the clips on YouTube, it's a magnificent game of football, first of all. And anything with Matt Connor in it is just, it's art. Like, Matt Connor is the great transcendent genius of modern football. I know people will make cases for him, and I'm in no way biased on this, but like, anything with Matt Connor in it is a joy to watch. And he scored a point off John O'Keefe. It's on YouTube if anyone wants to look at it. He scored a point off John O'Keefe in the first half of that game, where he left John O'Keefe and another Kerry defender on the ground with a couple of dummy solos going both ways. And the argument is, did he go for a goal or a point from 21 yards? But it just shaved the crossbar as he went over. And it's just, you just got to look at it.
My first real consciousness of Matt Connor was 2 matches that were played, I think, in Thurles that we went to, and it would have been the All-Stars against, it must have been the All-Ireland champions, hurling and football. And I remember queuing for autographs afterwards. Was it in Tullamore?
It was in Tullamore, yeah.
It was a fundraiser.
Yeah, a huge crowd, an enormous day, an amazing match.
Yeah.
All the great players in the county in both hurling and football came to Tullamore as a fundraiser for Matt. But Matt's given...
What year would that have been?
That was 85 or 80. I'd say 85.
Okay, yeah.
Possibly 86. But
so
I would say something
like Christmas Day 84, was it?
Yeah, but Matt has given, since then, he's given a lifetime of service to Offaly GA as a minor selector, went on to be international rules selector, involved in club teams down there, and just incredibly witty man, by the way, as well. Just in a really quiet man, but a genius of a footballer. And if you look at the teams around the time when why Offaly beat Kerry, Offaly were getting closer every year. From 78 they got close to Dublin. 79 finally got by, nearly beat Dublin in 79, finally got by them in 1980, beaten by Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final. Matt Connor scored 2-9 against Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final. Right, that year he scored 8 goals and 31 points in the All-Ireland Football Championship in 4 matches. Right, he gets 3 All-Stars before he's the age of 24. He won everything in the game. 6 Offaly Senior Football Championships. The first one won at 7. But it's the little games around it. So there was a club match that I against Dunlavin, the Leinster Club Championship. Well, China was a small little parish. Leinster Club Championship, and Matt was quiet enough in the first half, and Dunlavin were going really well. He came out in 15 minutes in the second half and scored 4 or 5. And just, well, here we go, actually.
Wow.
And this is
where was he? Where did he play full forward? Was
13, 14, 11.
Right.
You couldn't play him wing forward, but 13. Well, you could play Matt Connor anywhere, I suppose. But
it'd be a waste.
13, 14, or 11. He played 14 in the All Ireland final. He played 11 in other occasions. I think he played 13 in the 1980 semi final. But just an extraordinary player, and it is the big challenge for any team that wants to stop Dublin. Do you have a player like that can bring you? So Offaly were getting closer every year.
Yeah.
Like Offaly were within 5 points in the 1980 semi-final. Now, the 1981 final, Offaly had just won the Hurling. It's kind of amazing thing when you think about the size of the county. Offaly just won the Hurling. They come into the football final against Kerry, going for 4 in a row. And if you look at that game, Kerry won by 7 or 8 points, and it looks like it's fairly comfortable. And Jack O'Shea scored a goal late in that game where they worked the ball the whole length of the field, an amazing goal, and they put a gloss on it. Offaly hit the crossbar 3 times in that match when they were going for goals, having been just at the point when they were 2, 3, 4 points down. So 2 of those go in. Yeah. It's a totally different game. So Offaly were not far away, and it's small margins. Like, there's a lot of teams not too far away from Dublin.
Yeah.
But do they have that little bit extra?
It's interesting you say that, because just before we came on air, Tommy, you were talking about the individuality and being in the right place at the right time as a generational talent, and Matt Connor was obviously in the right place at the right time. Is the individual still rewarded in the year 2018 in football? I think hurling, we've finally seen a bit of a renaissance this year. You think of the Peter Duggan point, for example, as these moments of spark and brilliance that you do wonder if that is the thing that's going to stop Dublin, or is it a system? Because ultimately that is the last thing that beat Dublin in Championship football, the Jim McGuinness system.
But
well, I think even when they did beat him with the system, Donegal had special forwards.
I agree.
They had McFadden, they had Murphy. You know,
and Ryan McHugh was unbelievable that day as well, the last time they beat them.
You know, so I think myself, you do need them special players, and that just kind of sums it up as well. Talking about Offaly winning that, denying Kerry, they had special players, Matt Connor and the Lowry's, James Darby's goal and all that, but you need special players, I think, to beat them teams. You might only need one.
Yes.
And he does something remarkable on a given day where he mightn't play well and scores 1-2. one of these guys. And I think, there is teams out there. Kerry could have players like that coming from the 5-in-a-row minor team that might be able to do that next year.
Clifford? Is Clifford
is a special player. There's no argument on Clifford.
Yeah.
No argument.
Straight away, he arrived into adult football fully formed.
And imagine what he's going to be like when he gets his man strength, and is able to do all the other stuff that he'll be able to do at that point. Is it too soon? I mean, are there parallels between that Kerry team and this Dublin team, or are we just looking back at history and going, this is the last time somebody this good had the opportunity to do 5-in-a-row in football?
Well, you've got insight into this in a way that none of us have, but there must be a thing in the back of your mind. 5-in-a-row is a barrier. So Wexford Footballers did 4 in a row, 1915 to 1918, unpeeled in 1919. Kerry Footballers did it 29 to 31, 28 to 31, unpeeled in 32. Gavin bet them in a All-Ireland semi-final in Breffni Park. Now, why it was played in Breffni Park is not clear. Kerry do it from the 70s into the, yeah, I can feel the hurt. Kerry do it then the 70s into the 80s, and you can actually, if you watch the video of the game, and I probably don't watch it every week anymore, but but if you watch it, you can see Kerry falling back as they're trying to protect this thing that they have, but they leave themselves exposed. And I don't care what anyone says. There must be something there.
Well, you have to go 5 years unbeaten. I think that's
in knockout play.
I think and there's a very high chance of that happening. So I think that probably will play more against Dublin this year than anything. I don't think their heads will go, because I think he will motivate the team by bringing in new players again. But I think there's a great chance of someone beating them this year, for the simple reason is it's so difficult to go 5 years unbeaten. I don't think the weight of expectation or anything like that will hinder him. But saying that, if the game is tight, they're only up by a point or two with a few minutes to go, well then they suddenly have something to lose. This year they didn't really have anything to lose. 4 in a row, there's not really much about a 4 in a row, but a 5 in a row.
Only a Kilkenny man can say that.
But the same stigma is not attached to it.
Yeah,
we're already, when they're going for the 4 in a row, could they do 5 in a row was nearly what everyone was chatting about. So I'd say that's when it might start playing into their minds. As you said, if Kerry start retreating like that after winning all day one, Dublin could very much do that as well.
And nobody could see Kerry being beaten. If you look at all the newspaper reports at the end of 81, and Raymond Smith, brilliant old Sunday Independent journalist, took the train with the Kerry team when they went home after winning on the Monday in 81, and he chatted to all the players down, and he talked to us, and he wrote a book on the strength of newspaper articles, and he said it was abundantly clear from all the Kerry players that they couldn't see themselves losing to Offaly. And that's a dangerous enough frame of mind, no matter how much you get yourself up for it. If there's a niggle in the background, it's you're so used to beating people. And Tyrone, everyone writes off Tyrone now after last year's final and the previous semi-final. I wouldn't write off Tyrone at all. Tyrone came into that final with a load of injuries, and I know Dublin beat them comfortably in the end. I know all that, but I don't think Tyrone are as far away as people say they are. I don't think Kerry are far away at all.
It's interesting that Kyle Cooney is coming back after 4 or 5 years of being out. So he's 26 now, I think. He's only 26. And, when he came into the team, he was heralded as the most talented Tyrone footballer of his generation. So if he's gone away and learned how to apply that talent and is now back in the setup, so we don't know how good he's going to be, but so you add him, you add Canavan, there's an impetus behind the team as well, and a confidence that comes from meeting.
There's inside forwards, in a way that they could do with a couple of more inside forwards, and Kerry need to sort out their defence and their midfield to some extent, which a lot of things to sort out. You can make a case for Dublin more than you can make a case for any of the other teams. There's no point not be stupid here. You can make a case for Dublin winning better than you can make a case for the other teams. But I think it's a really tricky year for Dublin. Really tricky.
Because they're being asked about it every time. In every conversation it comes up already, and at some point you get bored of the same question, and I don't know, I think it has to have an impact at some level.
And Mayo.
Yeah.
Everyone writes Mayo. Everyone has Mayo written off. So I don't write them off.
The interesting about Mayo is that it seems to be kind of like a one and done situation, where if you get a manager back like James Horan, really it's year one or bust. He's not back. His first stint was a project. It was take Mayo back to the upper echelons, which he did. Whereas now it's like that one new manager, that 1 year you get off that new manager boost, is so important that I think if it's either 2019 or nothing for this Mayo crop.
I don't know, and I think
You
he's a
don't
free
think so?
hit. I think he's got a free hit this year.
Look at the Kerry man riding off Mayo.
Yeah.
I'm saying literally this coming year is, if they're going to do it, it's going to be 2019.
I think they've, with the older players, he's got a go with them. He'll introduce some new ones. There's no real pressure on them. There's no massive expectation on them doing it, and then he'll have his couple of years to introduce that under 21 All-Ireland winning teams afterwards.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's there for the long haul as well. I did want to ask about Eugene McGee, because I think people forget that Eugene is still in his late 20s, early 30s when this happened. Is that right?
Yeah, came from UCD, having trained UCD to win club championships, knew every footballer in the country by virtue of Sigerson football, even though Sigerson, there's much fewer people in college in the 70s than there are now, so it's less things, but he knows. He won All-Ireland club championship. Like, he brought them through all of these things, and he built slowly with Offaly. As I say, 78 Leinster semi-final, get to the final in 79, win the final in 80, get to the All-Ireland final in 81, and then do it in 82. It's incremental progress. He
3
built
Leinster
a team,
titles in a row.
Yes, and built a team over 5 years, and it's that's steadily. And he learned from 81, so he worked out from 81, and it's brilliant. If you watch the 2 finals back to back, and again, I wouldn't say I do that too often, but in 81, Tim Kennelly dominated from centre back. So he took Richie Connor, Offaly's brilliant centre back from Offaly, and the captain of the team, and put him up centre forward for the final. Just threw him up there and said, right, I don't want Tim Kennelly bossing this area, and he did that. He got matchups right all over the pitch. He got Seamus Darby back in 82. Seamus Darby, see, this is the thing, Offaly winning in 82, everyone has painted it as this extraordinary shock, the greatest shock, and it wasn't that big of a shock. Yes, it was a surprise, but 3 of that team had won All-Irelands in the early 70s, so there was a tradition of winning there already. They knew how to win All-Irelands. Loads of the rest of them had either won Leinster under 21s and minors, or had been there or thereabouts in them, and had been involved in Leinster club championships. So it's not a team that kind of dropped from the moon and was.
And there was a good point about Owen, you were asking the question earlier on about systems and what system to play in that, and I think that probably shows as well the ability to adapt against who you're playing is vital in this day and age, because there's so many different things going on. And the fact that they put up, was it Richie Connors?
Yes.
Yeah, the fact that they put him up on Tim Kennelly just goes to show, like, things like that win championships, and hadn't been playing there all year, I presume.
No, and just dropped them up.
Final.
Just did it for the final. And
that's amazing.
Had Sean Lowry in centre back, and Sean Lowry had previously played full forward. I'm almost certain, I am certain Sean Lowry played full forward in the All-Ireland semi-final against Galway. And the semi-finals actually played brilliantly for Offaly, because Offaly scraped over Galway by a point, not playing great, and Kerry did a number on Armagh, won by more than 10 points. It was the Harlem Globetrotter stuff. Yeah. And so it just feeds the whole thing.
We'd beat the pick of them type thing that famously the
There's one other thing should be said about that team, is that final, 17 players played in that final, and it came from 10 houses. So because of all the sets of brothers on it.
That's mad.
3 Lowrys, 2 Fitzgeralds, 2 Connors, 2 O'Connors, 2 Darbys. The 2 subs that came on were from the same house.
That's mad.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Small county, and small. So Offaly is 2 counties.
Same to Hurling in the late 90s as well. What is it, the 10-mile radius they talk about?
The Dooleys, and the Pilkingtons and the Wheelahans, all of that coming from the same place.
Yeah. Can that be done again?
Tries,
yeah, God, yeah.
And
John tries some hurler.
Yeah. He was special. Remember his goal against Antrim, the one where he just flicked the back up like that, buried it.
Amazing.
But even when you talk to any of the Offaly players from that time, they all have massive respect for John Troy.
Yeah.
And he was, he obviously did things in training as well, and matches that we didn't even see, but I think they reckon he was the most skillful of them all.
We used to train at the bottom end of O'Connor Park, and the hurlers would be training up the top end a lot of time when they were going really well at the time, and we'd running laps, you're looking for an excuse not to run laps, and you just see John Troy poking around before the training's going on, and he's just doing tricks with things, and he just I don't think he's ever properly got the credit for being the hurler that he is.
And even that time the number 11 was kind of he was the broke ball, he was your big strong centre forward. He probably he was changed that, and the modern centre forward is more the guy that roams here, roams there, using his skill and space to score and at will. And he was probably one of the first of that type of a centre forward.
He was, and he also, though, he was well able to
look after himself.
Yes. I was trying to find the right phrase. Yeah, he knew him. He wasn't afraid to swing.
Is there anybody like him at the moment? Like, is a kind of a cross between Noel McGrath and somebody else?
Noel McGrath would be a typical type of the same type of a hurler.
But you would have said John Troy was definitely more physical than that as well.
John Troy was much smaller than
small,
yeah. John Troy than Noel McGrath.
In Bounce, Matthew Said's book, he talks about himself, his brother, and 3 other guys all playing table tennis for Britain from like a 3-street radius because they had one coach, and the coach was hothousing them. I don't know if something similar happened in GAA where 2 families had kids of similar standard, and that standard happened to be so athletically superior to everybody else that the families drove each other on, or 2 clubs find a rivalry. Like, is that what happens in these small places?
So I think what happened in Offaly, I think a couple of very simple things happened in Offaly. First of all, there were more people in the county by the end of the 50s and the 60s because of Bord na Móna and the power stations and people being able to work around the area. So more people were staying around, and those people who were staying around were having kids. So there were more kids in Offaly at the end of the 50s and the beginning of the 60s than there were previously. They had a properly run underage system through the schools and everything. So they produced players who got to the 60 and 61 beaten by Down in both years, absolutely robbed in one of those All-Irelands, again not biased. That team 10 years later produces those kids who are of age to come through in 71. So there's the remnants of the 60 team is there in 71 and 72 when Offaly beat Galway and then Kerry to win All-Irelands. And 10 years later, the kids who saw that come through again to produce the 80s team. So families, there were, insofar as families had kids, and there's a misunderstanding that every Irish family had about 20 kids, but insofar as families had kids, they often had 3 or 4 kids rather than the 1 or 2 more prevalent now. And if that's a group of boys growing up in the house, or a group of girls, whatever, they becomes competitive. I mean, the reality was in the 70s, sport wasn't nearly as open to girls as it is now. It's a fucking disgrace when you look back at it. But in the 80s, for boys, and certainly boys growing up in Offaly, the range of opportunities for what you do with your time are relatively limited. But Offaly had brilliant schools. Brilliant.
The hurling that time, but Power Horgan was a Burr Community School, and
he was in Banagher, wasn't he? And brother Dennis was in Burr.
There was brothers in Burr, and they were a powerhouse of schools hurling.
Completely, and they brought them in, and it's the same in the secondary schools in Offaly, and so players were coming through the schools. There's no secret to any of these teams who come out of nowhere to win All-Ireland. Like Laois had won Hurling All-Ireland, won in 1915. And the reason why they won their All-Ireland in 1915 is between 1900 and 1912 they set up a proper school system. 2 Kilkenny men did it actually. Set up a school system around the place and brought players through, and they got slowly closer from 1911 to 1915 before they won their All-Ireland.
And just on the brothers, you're asking a question about the brothers and all that. Like you're geared by your environment. So I think as like kids are copycats, and whatever to see one lad do, they all end up doing. And if you have brothers going out, like you train back then probably you train twice a week maybe. And even now you train maybe 3 times a week. So that's 3 or 4 hours of hurling. Whereas if you're growing up in a house of brothers, or just cousins living beside you, or as you said, they all live in a little street or a little radius, well then you have 10, 15 guys out hurling maybe 4 hours a day. Because they're not inside, obviously they're out, because that's where they all get their enjoyment. So I think it is a massive influence on teams and areas, a group that comes together.
They just automatically drive each other on, but then they also have the contact hours and the skills, and that's the thing that improves things. Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense. So this documentary is on Friday the 28th of December. Owen is setting his DVR right now at 9:30. It's the story of the Offaly team from their point of view. Let's stop Kerry from winning the 5 in a row in 82 with contributions from Matt Connor, Richie Connor, Seamus Darby, Eugene McGee, Sean Lowry, Martin Furlong and more, alongside of course Michael Foley and Paul Rouse. Was it an enjoyable thing to confess that you've been watching this video once a week, every week for?
There's a brilliant book written by Spike Milligan, the I suppose Anglo-Irish comic. He wrote it in about his time in the Second World War. It's called Hitler, My Part in His Downfall. That's how I feel about my involvement in this film. The idea that I could be in a programme with these group of lads, like that list of names, like Martin Furlong. Martin Furlong is from my club at home. Martin Furlong is an inspiration to anybody in Tullamore who plays Gaelic football. Like Martin, like he lives in New York still. He comes home. He speaks to our club every so often when he comes home, and he's a really quiet, decent, shy, understated man who's won 3 All-Irelands, which in Offaly football terms, nobody has won more All-Irelands than Martin Furlong, because he's a minor as well. And like I got to play against a lot of those teams from the 80s in club football, and in the team from the 90s in club hurling, but the team from the 80s in club football. And it was an amazing thing. We never got to play with Martin Furlong, got to play with his son Ken, and more recently with his 2 grandsons, John and Tom, in a street league, which the Dillonites won. So I'm very proud of that as an old man. But so Martin Furlong, though, he walks into the club and it's just, it's just a reverence to him. And that list of people is to be involved in any shape or form. But like this is their story. And I was 12 in 1982. And I had a great good fortune. I won a ticket in the club draw. Wow. Right, so I was up the back of the Hogan stand on the Nally rail, you know, that old corner, and ordinarily not a great seat, but for Seamus Darby's goal it was perfect. Just perfect. And like the memories of that, like everyone's onto the pitch. So loads of people have gone onto the pitch before the full-time whistle because they're gone through the wiring at the old Hogan. And I make it out onto the pitch finally, and my mother's out in the pitch, and I see her and I go running for her, and Seamus Darby picks her up and throws her in the air because they're wearing the same place on the road. And then if you watch the footage of it now, my dad's wearing, he brought my brother Dave, they were in the sideline seats, a bit sickening, but they were in the sideline seats and they're sitting there but if you watch the video of the match, so there's a brilliant photo of Coleman Doyle from the Independent took it from behind the goal of Charlie Nelligan like this, and the ball dipping over his fingers, and I can see me dad and my brother in the Hogan stand just jumping. It's amazing. It's in the corner. So, but the footage of the match afterwards, my father's wearing, the reason why I can spot him, my father's wearing these yellow oilskins, right? It was a wet day, but he's dressed like he's going to the North Sea on an oil rig, right? So he's just running around the place like a lunatic on the field.
Did you make the documentary?
I don't know, actually. I haven't seen it, so
we'll be looking out for him
and be watching him. But if you watch the footage of the match, he's still going around, and the best of it is he's lost my brother David, so I was not signing him. So and all I can remember is he'd probably kill me for saying this, but he didn't appear. My father appeared home, I think it was on the Wednesday after the game. Maybe that's probably not true. So yeah, it's just one of those things that you know, we've only won 3. Offaly have only won 3 in history. It has been a struggle in Offaly football, but for many years before the 60s and since the 90s, like the last 20 years have been tough in Offaly in football, and now they're tough in hurling. But when you look back at that as a 12-year-old, like you see Offaly winning All-Ireland and football hurling championship back to back. Offaly were very unlucky not to win the 82 All-Ireland final, by the way. Matt Ruth's goal where the ball was pulled back, he was nearly in the canal end. It was that far wide when he pulled it back in. But so anyway, it was an amazing time. That's a long way of saying it was an amazing time.
Yeah. But it's interesting, obviously you got involved last summer. Knowing everything that you know and being able to put it in that historic context, is it possible for Offaly to make that level of comeback, and what do they need to do really to be able to get to that point? Because
the idea that is not possible is rubbish. Like I refuse to accept that it's not possible for any county that wants to commit proper resources in developing players. The first step is to develop players through the schools and through the clubs. Just talking about we're going to decide next year to win an All-Ireland is just rubbish. You develop your players over a period. It takes deep investment over 10, 15 years to bring through a whole load of players. Every county can only field 15. It drives me nuts when I hear people talking about, oh, Dublin have this huge benefit of resources and no one can compete with them. Well, why aren't they winning hurling All-Ireland so? Like Kilkenny, everyone was talking about Kilkenny when you dominated everything. This will go on forever. Nothing goes on forever. So the trick is not to worry about anyone else, not to worry about how they play, to develop your players in the most skillful way possible. Draw and learn from the others, but develop your players, and you can only play 15. And that really matters. And I know you need subs and all that, but it should be within the weight of any county. Like I would say, like you look at Tullaroan. Like can you see Tullaroan win the Kilkenny Senior Hurling Championship in the future?
Could, yeah.
But that requires a whole load of things to happen.
Yeah, I think it all comes back to underage.
I know
have
that.
to drive it underage. You look at any of the sportsmen and throughout the world, and they're doing it from a young age, 3, 4, 5 years of age, and they just, because they spend so much time doing it, they become better at it. When they become better at it, become more confident, and then it just drives them, and it just snowballs. And then if you've a few lads doing that, well, then that doubles. Then their brothers are doing it, their sisters are doing it. So I think any team, as you said, Offaly, can they win the All-Ireland? Of course they can. Like, if they get their underage sorted, and that's not minor, that's not under 16,
No,
that's under
that's
7.
nursery. It's everyone, everything on.
So, and it's the same at all the clubs, like, you know. And
Is that going to happen?
I think it is happening in Offaly. I think Offaly has improved. I think there's a bigger issue with the hurling base because there are not as many people living in that area as well. But there's huge work being done underage in Offaly. Like, everybody else is doing it as well, but there is huge work being done in Offaly, and there were good footballers in Offaly. Even at the moment, there are really good footballers in Offaly. Like, Offaly is not a Division 3 or Division 4 team. There are enough good footballers in Offaly. The question is, can you get them onto the field? And
you don't have to look at, say, the club campaign, like Mount Leinster Rangers, the Carlow team, were in
Yes.
senior club All Ireland. Loughleel and they won the intermediate. Was it the year or two previous? Loughleel Shamrocks Club All Ireland champions. Like, you know, coming from teams that you'd say wouldn't win at inter-county level.
Yeah.
So if you get guys in an area to put everyone in it from a young age, look at Slot Neal, hurling and football, and Camogie.
I think that really matters, but I think you said there's a really key word that you said in what you were saying the last time, Tommy, that's confidence. And where does confidence come from? Confidence, you're not born with confidence. The idea that someone just gets confidence or is given confidence by someone else is rubbish. You do the work, you do the skills development, and then by doing the practice, you actually somehow manage to get yourself to do it on the field. And confidence comes from having done it and knowing you can do it.
I do think it's interesting, though, that you did draw the parallel between the 70s team had survivors from the 60s team, the 80s team had survivors from the 70s team, that having some sense of possibility is there, because confidence, you know, you need the coaches and the mentors to have the confidence that what they're doing is the right thing as well. So you can see how counties lose faith and how it becomes a vicious cycle, and it's hard to break that in certain counties.
I completely agree, and Offaly does have a little bit of an advantage. Now, this can work either ways. There can be the weight of history, which says you'll never do what those lads do, and if you think you're at the bottom of the pile and you can't get there, then why should you put yourself into the firing line? Or you can flip it and you can say, well, we have knowledge in our county of having done it, so let's use it. So when I was fortunate enough to be for doing the Offaly Footballers, like, on the management team was Stephen Darby, who played in the 82 All-Ireland final. Like, it's great to know there's someone in the corner of the room with an All-Ireland medal who's won it the same, and he came from the same place as you came from. So I think that really matters.
Yeah, no, for sure. Look, the documentary sounds like it's going to be great. You obviously haven't seen it yet, but the book, the companion piece book that's
it's a great book.
It is
Mick Foley's Kings of September.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant as well. So that should be a part of your Christmas shopping, as well as the Hurlers by Paul Rouse. So Paul, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks very much.
We're going to play one quick clip here from Wednesday Night Rugby. It's Andy Dunn and how John Cooney can put pressure on Joey Carbery this weekend. Have a look.
Well, I think should we see the kicking duel, be very interesting to see Carbery's response. Like I said, I think really striking the ball immeasurably better. From a technical point of view, he's not. A lot of kickers have the style where they crumple over the ball. Their head is very much over the ball. Traditionally, you know, head down, focus. He's opened up his chest. His head is kind of not so much C-shaped over the ball. He's quite J-shaped. He's kind of standing up there, opening out the hips.
Farrell, his chest is up.
And he's getting a nice strike on the ball, which matters. Now, striking it lovely and hitting it wide doesn't matter all that much, but you would hope as the strike becomes more consistent and true, which I think he's done, the accuracy comes with it. Cooney is, from my mind, possibly the most underrated player in Irish rugby at the moment. What he's done in terms of his contribution to Ulster rugby has been huge. A remarkable contribution for a guy who was a bit part player in other provinces. He's kicked last-minute conversions and penalties to win key games. His contribution around the field is not as I suppose, an attacking threat, probably not where Marmion and McGrath are. Was passing, I'd say all three, their passing is very similar. So yeah, I'd be very interested to see how things pan out, not only just for, you know, Cooney's kicking game here if he plays this weekend, but over the course of the next 8-9 months. For my mind, he could be a dark horse for the World Cup squad.
Yeah. That's Andy Dunn in conversation with Dave McIntyre last night in studio for Wednesday Night Rugby. You can get the podcast of that on our brand new shiny website, offtheball.com. So have a look at that. It's also possible now for you to watch and stream and listen to this show in the mornings and go about your business. You can minimise it and we'll play it in the background for you if you just want to listen to the piece as well. Now, loads of comments coming in. Sean Martin says, happy Christmas lads, great show all year, keep it up. Tommy, any sign of you going into coaching / management in the future? I think not until you're 40.
Yeah, and even that I won't be going outside Tullaroan. So I'll be staying, keep it local, shop local.
Would a sweeper have stopped Tommy when he was using Jack Quincho up front? #OTB FIFA, #OTBAM, ask Sean O'Brien.
He probably would have, because they just get the ball to him and run.
Juan Sebastian Ravon was another old school Pro Evo classic from the 90s. Says Seamus Stapleton. Tommy's an absolute legend. Your passion for Offaly football from Paul, that's great. Not a bad hurler either, says David Finnerty. Didn't realise that Paul had played hurling as much as football as well. That Offaly team, like, it's funny how there hasn't been more made of them, because like the jerseys are class, right? Which is very important when you're a kid and you're watching this, like, those jerseys are class. My favourite football game as a kid was when Kerry played Meath in the All-Ireland football final, and they both wore their provincial jerseys, so it was blue versus green. I was like, I'd never seen them before, and so Kerry are wearing this blue, a Munster GA blue.
That's what it was, yeah.
I like, what? Do you know that jersey?
I know the jersey you're talking about, but I don't know why they came up with that instead of. I suppose they just didn't have change kits at the time.
Yeah.
And obviously blue is their change strip at the moment. They wore it last against Mayo a couple of years ago.
Ger Parra scored a great goal in it. Have you ever seen the video of that? They beat Meath in an All-Ireland semi-final.
I can't remember with the specific game, but I know the jersey you're talking about, and I know the game you're talking about.
Jersey, I don't know, it's just different. And those Offaly jerseys also look great in those games. And Kerry had a change strip of a white jersey.
Yes.
Jacko scores an amazing goal in that white jersey at some point.
Yeah. The white and
green trim.
Yeah, it almost looks like an Offaly jersey. If you just put it down and there was no player in it, it almost looks like an Offaly jersey.
They're class.
Yeah.
I was wondering as well, dude, we used to have the golden years that time, which was the Kerry team was on video.
Yeah.
I wonder, is that still out? Is that on DVD? Was it ever transferred?
You get it on YouTube.
I think so.
Let's get a copy of it.
It is on YouTube.
Is it? Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I was watching it recently enough. Which is kind of sad. I think I was looking to buy a copy on Amazon or something for someone, and then I just saw a link to YouTube, and an hour and a half later, there I was.
Tommy Hurling till he's 40. Most lads calling it a day at the early 30s these days. Old habits die hard. Tommy's surviving a relegation and a turnaround. Good club man, says Kay Fenley. Caroline Tyke says, I think Dublin will do 5 in a row. I'd say everybody thinks they're going to do it, but there's a really good chance that
they don't.
Do you not?
No.
Okay, right.
Who's going to be All-Ireland champions this time next year?
You get the field if you just say, like...
Well, if someone beats Dublin, then it could be anyone. Anyone could be anyone after that. You know, like Tyrone, Kerry, Monaghan,
the worst time
Mayo
to beat them would be a semi-final. You don't want to be the team that beats them in a semi-final and be the overwhelming favourites in the final and get picked off.
That's what happened last time, wasn't it? In 2014. So I don't know. As we've kind of said already.
But is the opening game... Is there still one? The first one going to be in Croke Park?
Yes, they said that a couple of weeks ago that they will still have 2 Croke Park games, because Croke Park isn't their home, of course, Tommy. They merely rent it out. In fact, they don't actually get a home game in the Super 8, so the odds are stacked against Dublin. They've got to go away to Croke Park on 2 occasions.
Right. Well, I suppose it suits them, you see, not because they're so used to there, but such a big pitch and they've brilliant players. So yeah, that will probably play to their advantage. But yeah, I think someone will shock them.
But the thing is, you don't want them to get beaten in the Super 8s anyway, because they lose one game like that and they're still in the competition. They'll come back with a vengeance and actually qualify and then go on to the semi-final. You obviously want them beaten in knockout, so a semi-final or a final. Like, I just think that the gap is just so large, and there's no proof that the gap is closing. There's where is the sign that Dublin are slowing down, and where is the sign that Kerry and Mayo are going to accelerate at a rate of knots that is going to close that gap?
That's when you're probably at your most vulnerable, you know.
Perhaps.
When you think you're that strong. Like, we heard what Paul was saying about the Kerry, or was it yourself about the Kerry guys? They thought they were just going to win the All-Ireland and that was it. So I think when everyone is telling you that you can't be beaten, that's when you're definitely at your... Some of it is going to seep in, as you keep saying about the questions, Ger.
Kerry had released a single as well about 5 in a row in advance of the final.
But like...
Come on.
They were asking for it.
Was that an official single?
Not an official single, but
like
sorry,
it's
people
a-
in Kerry. Kerry fans.
But like obviously, everybody makes a fan song before any big sporting
No, they
event.
don't. No, they don't.
Like you'll
Nobody
never.
in Ireland has ever done that before. Literally the first Irish sports fan song in history.
Yeah, because like Ireland have never released a song which contained the lyrics "You'll never beat the Irish," which I take to mean we're going to win the World Cup.
And we'll really shake them up when we win the World Cup because Ireland are the greatest football team. The players sang that. I think.
But exactly, I mean, so it's
Yeah, but that was ludicrous. We knew that was ludicrous. Whereas the Kerry lads were like, yeah, of course they're going to win 5 in a row.
but it wasn't the players.
Fair point. All right, 2 quick ones for you. Poch to United and how to Spurs. And then there's that the money eyes emoji and the green tongue. Is that like a good emoji or a bad emoji? I don't know. It's just like making out like a bandit emoji. Is that
Like dollar drunk.
dollar drunk? That's it. Is
Yeah.
that the official title of it?
I just coined that right there.
It's not bad. Tommy Walsh looking like a young Bill Shankly in that suit and tie, says Donny Keohane. That's we instead of no tracksuit on the sideline for you, just a suit and tie. It's like,
Oh, I'd rather be like, I read a book on him during the winter. Was it Jimmy Murphy, the guy from Man United? He was the second guy to Matt Busby in the Busby Babes. I'd rather be him. He was an incredible guy. So I don't know, Danny, you read about. Yeah, he was a coach and he was very much involved again in the underage setups.
Yeah.
But then when Munich happened, Busby was obviously in hospital and Jimmy had to take over. And you know the credit. I just read this book and it credits him with keeping Manchester United going during them rough couple of months and that, and just lived for it. You know, even his family probably didn't see him a whole lot at this time, because he just lived in Manchester United and loved the players. And was it Duncan Edwards? Was he the fella that died?
He was a superstar,
He was a superstar and loved Duncan Edwards, and he speaks of him the way Paul was speaking of Matt Connor.
Yeah.
You know, Tottenham, and it's an amazing story. And I was surprised I hadn't come across it before, but you know, we hear about the Busby Bays, but then when you see what actually was behind everything, and Jimmy Murphy, so I'd rather him. He was more, I think, of a tracksuit guy out in the.
Is coaching something that is actually more interesting to you than being a manager?
Yeah, I don't think I would be as much into in management, because I'd just rather be in the ground and underage. I do prefer underage as well. So like it gets a lot more complicated when you, a lot more personalities when they get up to adult level, and I don't think organising matches and referees and water bottles and all that, I'm not as So
somebody else
I would
can do
prefer underage coaching. Yeah.
Tommy, we've loads of your clips that we're going to play out a little bit later on. One of our favourite one was when you'd have something in the background on Skype. So please keep that up next year, because it's always great. We're like, oh, what's that over Tommy's shoulder? Our favourite one was the one of was it your granddad? Was that the first one that we had?
Yeah. Now I got a load of texts after I said it was such a match, and so I got a few texts in to say that it was a different. So
never confess to that. No one knows that.
Well, I didn't mind, because that was only a part of the story. The real story was him shaking Christy Ring's hand.
Well, listen, happy Christmas. It's been brilliant having you, and honestly, a well-deserved award. You totally, 100%. It's been a career festooned with awards, but hopefully that's right up there with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here is one more clip from last night's show. It is Matt Hughes of The Times saying that the whole notion of a director of football is not going to put Mauricio Pochettino off from working at Manchester United, and that's all a bit of a red herring. Have a look.
And I kind of think that the director of football thing is a slight red herring in this. The most important appointment to Manchester United is the manager. They have to get that right. And in getting that right, they will compromise on the director of football, and they will not appoint a man over the manager's head that he's not happy to work with. Pochettino's worked with directors of football before. He worked with Paul Mitchell at Southampton and also at Tottenham. He wasn't replaced, but Tottenham and United are very different clubs. Daniel Levy is de facto technical director, really. He runs that club. Ed Woodward is kind of tacitly acknowledged that he does not have those skills, and feels they need more help in the transfer market. I don't think that would be a stumbling block to recruiting Pochettino, providing they could agree on the right candidate.
You also wrote today...
He may even be asked to bring someone with him.
Yeah, well, I was just going to ask that question. You also wrote today that, as you understand it, United are actually preparing an offer not just for Pochettino, but for his entire coaching staff, Jesus Perez, Tony Jimenez and Miguel D'Agostino as well. So I guess they have to reach an agreement with Tottenham first. But So as you understand it, the bookies are right in having Pochettino leading the betting at the moment, that he is the primary target for Manchester United, and any other manager after that would be second choice.
I mean, these situations are fluid, but that's my understanding at the moment. And people around United certainly were not attempting to play let down yesterday, which is unusual in itself.
There you go. It's the lads talking last night with Matt Hughes about the Pochettino and the structure within which he might work. Stephen Doyle is here this morning. Stephen, how are you?
Good, Ger. Thanks. Yourself?
Happy Christmas.
Same to you.
What are you getting for Christmas?
What am I getting for Christmas? I actually don't. You get to a certain point where you don't really care anymore, do you? You just kind of
got to that point.
Once you get a few socks, some underwear, fresh underwear for the new year, you're kind of happy enough, aren't you?
Kind of set, ready to go. Yeah. 2019, you hit the ground running.
Well, I actually have to say, our tech whiz in here, Jess Kelly, got me in the Secret Santa, and I got a...
Oh, man, that's class.
Yeah.
She's got this stockpile of amazing stuff. What'd you get?
Oh, I got this little Bluetooth speaker.
Ah.
And it's amazing. Like, it's probably about the same size as the phone here, but the sound is incredible.
Is it?
Absolutely incredible, yeah.
What makes it?
Oh, I haven't a clue, actually, now. It's
great advertising. It really works.
But my music sounds really good in it. That's all cool. I can say, yeah.
What did you purchase for the other person?
Well, I got this really fancy... we got one of the girls up in marketing, and I got this really fancy corkscrew and a bottle of Prosecco. Nice Prosecco.
It's nice and simple.
She was happy. She was really happy.
Are you a good present buyer in general?
There's a bit of racial profiling going on there.
I would be, though. In fact, my mother actually did say to me before, she said, "You're very good, son." When I come, because I really only have my sister, niece, mum and dad, girlfriend. And she says, "You're really good. You're very thoughtful." I don't like kind of getting stuff like vouchers or cash or anything.
Vouchers are great. You give the gift of choice.
Yes,
I believe I'm pro-choice. I definitely think that people should be able to pick their own stuff.
I might get a few photos for tomorrow, because I did see some great pictures of ploughing championship jerseys on the O'Neill's website.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I'll get those for tomorrow maybe. I think they could be the perfect gift for the GAA fan in your life.
Just to remember 2018, but the disaster that was the ploughing championships, let's not forget. I think
it rained.
Just rained. They've got to make their money some way, I suppose.
That sounds amazing. The photograph of Seamus Darby's goal, having your dad and your brother in the background.
If I was from Offaly, I would have that printed off, and there would be a massive mural in my bedroom. Seriously, it's an amazing photograph. It really is just an iconic photo, and there's not too many more of them that are just like that. It's just the helplessness of Nelligan in the air as the ball is just kind of going in ellipse over his head.
Do you know something as well? I think the strip, because there's a documentary coming up, isn't there, on RT over Christmas. The Offaly strip that year was magnificent.
Sure, I was just literally just talking about it.
It's one of the reasons why those teams mean so. I actually think the teams of the early 90s, the football was good, but the strips were amazing. The Meath strip was great. The Down strip was brilliant.
Oh yeah.
The Donegal strip wasn't bad. It was just, it helps a lot.
Yeah, big time.
Even that Cork jersey, even that team, that Cork team that ground out those two grim All-Irelands at the end of the 90s. Their Cork jerseys were the best Cork jerseys ever.
I mean, it led Eddie's early
89-90.
Yeah.
Barry's Tea we're talking here, aren't we?
Yeah, even in my head, is there a year and they won it with? They didn't. The sponsorship had come in.
You see,
Heath and Keepak are the first sponsorship winning team, aren't they?
But there's nothing wrong with the sponsored jerseys. Like the Kerry one in '98, the Adidas one is just one of the all-time great jerseys. It's like you clearly just aren't as much of a jersey aficionado as I thought you were, Steve-O. That you actually,
I like to keep it traditional when it comes to GAA. Well, I need to go to those foreign sports manufacturers.
What's the news, Steve-O?
I suppose we'll kick off with Tottenham Hotspur. They gained some sweet revenge at the Emirates last night. Of course, returning to the venue of the recent 4-2 Premier League defeat to Arsenal for their League Cup quarter-final last night. Heung-min Son and Dele Alli scored either side of the break to seal a 2-0 win at the Emirates. But the game marred by some fan trouble. Arsenal now analysing CCTV footage to identify a supporter who threw a plastic bottle at Dele Alli during the game. The Spurs midfielder was hit on the back of the head. His manager Maurizio Pochettino was speaking afterwards, just saying that it's a bad look for the game, and I suppose especially after what happened.
We can hear Pochettino speaking now. Those clips are in.
Okay.
Lucky that wasn't a big issue. For me, it's about when we play a derby, always we hate each other in a good way, but that looks in a bad way. It wasn't a problem. but can happen some big problems, some big issue, and then how we are going to fix it, that type of problem. I think Arsenal is going to take some responsibility about to identify the people, and I hope that.
Yeah, so I suppose after what happened in the last game, probably a little bit more serious when the banana skin was thrown on the pitch, but we did see it during the match. It looked like there was actually a bit of water, there was a good bit of water in the bottle, so there was a bit of weight in it. I don't know if anybody saw it. Dele Alli turned around to the crowd and
fair play to him. Fair play to him, 2 things. Not going down and doing the Rivaldo roly. And then one of the Arsenal players, was it Bellerin, coming over to him, and like, that's the only appropriate response to that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But he did well, I thought, Dele Alli.
Great stat coming out of the game. Paolo Gazzaniga was in goal for Spurs, the first Spurs goalkeeper to keep a clean sheet away at Arsenal in any competition since November 1998.
What? That's an amazing.
20 years. Anybody want to give a go?
Sorry, hang on, I was reading the tweets there.
Last Spurs keeper to keep a clean sheet away at Arsenal.
So Paolo Gazzaniga was the first Spurs keeper to keep a clean sheet away at Arsenal.
1998 is the last time.
1998 November.
Spurs keeper 98.
Who was the last goalkeeper? Spurs goalkeeper?
Eric Thorstvedt. It's after him. The England goalkeeper.
I went with that last night, Ian Walker. Yeah, it wasn't him.
Is it a league game?
Yeah, you probably won't get this. It's Epson Bardson.
No, I wouldn't have got Epson Bardson.
No, I was just on the tip of my tongue. If you just give me an extra second.
Well, I was just thinking, like, that's 20 years. You're talking 20 away fixtures and whatever cup matches. That's 20 odd games. It's a serious record.
Owen has an equally interesting piece of sports trivia for this morning.
Oh, yeah. Well, I won't tell you the answer just yet, but because I want to get people at home thinking, who is the highest paid athlete of all time? I'm sure you'll know. This person has made billions. And this is not including endorsements. Get in touch at Off the Ball on Twitter or comment on the stream wherever you're watching. First person who wins gets a special Christmas message from Steve-O here.
OK, well, Spurs drawn to play Chelsea in the semi-finals after the Blues beat Bournemouth 1-0 at Stamford Bridge. Eden Hazard scoring the winner in the 84th minute. Just as well, Heung-min Son will miss the second leg. The forward has been called to South Korea's squad for the Asian Cup. He'll head off to the tournament in the UAE after Spurs' Premier League game against Man U next month. That finishes on the 1st of February. The ties will be played on the week commencing January 7th and 21st. Manchester City, they'll play League One side Burton Albion in the other last 4 clash. I wouldn't be calling that one if I was you. In the Scottish Premiership, Celtic back on top. The Hoops won 3-0 at home to Motherwell. Anthony Ralston and Michael Johnston scored either side of a Scott Sinclair penalty. They leapfrogged Rangers, who were held 0-0 away to Hibs. In Gaelic Games news, I know we've been speaking about already this morning, lads. Jim Gavin, sticking with the boys in blue, confirmed yesterday the Round Towers club man has agreed to continue managing the Dublin senior footballers until 2021. And just an interesting quote from Sean Hanley, the county chairman, saying Jim has contributed so much time and hard work on a voluntary basis to the Dublin team, and I thank him and his backroom team for their continued efforts and dedication.
Congratulations, Jim.
The Dubs always keen on highlighting the voluntary basis stuff there. Yeah. 2 Irish throwers into the third round of the PDC World Darts Championship. Limerick Carpenter, William O'Connor, beat James Wilson 3-2 in a 5-set thriller at the Ali Pali last night. O'Connor was a big underdog heading into this one against the 26th ranked Englishman. He'll next face Serbian Mensur Suljevic or England's Ryan Searle in the third round.
Good chance of revenge after they came to the Aviva and beat us that time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I tell you, Suljevic is a pretty good darts player. He's ranked 7th in the world.
God, that Irish-Serbian sporting rivalry is really ratcheting up a notch, isn't it?
I'm sure Nemanja Matić should be getting a flight over or getting a flight down to London for that game. Brendan Dolan pulled off a big shock. The Fermanagh man lost just one leg in beating Joe Cullen 3-0 in their second round encounter. The history maker, as Dolan is called, will face either Holland's Jan Dekker or England's Mervyn King on Sunday. Today, 25-year-old Carloman Steve Lennon takes on 25th seed Alan Chuck Norris in the second round. And to finish...
come on, Ger. Ger's just completely nonplussed. You just don't like darts. You're not laughing at all this stuff. This is comedy gold. It's beautiful, beautiful sport. Until we get to the Rotherham story. That's
I have to say, I'm a BDO man myself. I'm a traditionalist. I like the lakeside.
Why?
Friendly green. Yeah, but it's like...
How can you tell?
It's like Daleyman Park.
The scores are lower, the averages are lower, there's less than 180s, there's less people there, the production quality is shitter, and there's just less good analysis.
It's like Daleyman Park, okay? We know it's a bad football ground, but it is the spiritual home of Irish football. It's like the lakeside for darts. Strange post-match interview given by Englishman James Wade last night. The three-time semi-finalist was accused of thuggish behaviour after saying he wanted to hurt Seigo Asada in his nail-biting win over the Japanese qualifier. The world number 9 battled back from a set-down to beat the Asian Tour number 2 player 3-2. The match overshadowed by Wade's actions on stage as he appeared to be feeling the pressure. He shouted in the direction of his opponent after levelling the match at 1-1 and afterwards gave this strange explanation.
I didn't think he had that game in him. I really didn't. And perhaps if I felt that he had that game in him, I probably would have prepared a little bit different. But how I won that game, I don't know. But it's about time, that is, because I've lost so many games here that I shouldn't have lost.
How much did it help winning those 2 previous tournaments? Is that giving you a bit more confidence coming in, the Euros and the World Series?
No, not at all. My son that's... my son that's 10 weeks old, he texted me, so he's quite advanced, and he said, Dad, please don't lose.
Look, I think it was the first set you won, the second set. There was a lot of aggression at the end of that. You appeared to get quite close to him. What happened there?
I kept giving it to him. I wanted to hurt him. I wanted to, really hurt him in his face. And it wasn't a great game, but I wanted to hurt him and I wanted to progress, and that's my son, and also for a bit of the UK, so...
Yeah, strange was there. Wayne Mardle, the former player, spoke afterwards. He's obviously working as a pundit and said, does he mean he wanted to punch him in the face? What does he mean? I'm absolutely lost for words. It's just not on. The intimidation, overly aggressive. I hope he wakes up in the morning and thinks I've made a mistake here.
Brexit down the pub. That's what darts is. Brexit down the pub.
Yeah, because...
Brexit on tour, Brexit down the pub.
What, because no other sport falls under the...
I'm not saying any other sport. I'm not saying any other sport. Like, if you can defend darts against the charge of it being Brexit in human form, go for it.
Well, plenty of friends of mine went to see the darts in City West recently. Are they Brexiteers? Would they, if they were English, would they be part of the Football Lads Alliance or the EDL?
Probably.
Should we not?
That's pretty offensive.
English, yeah, probably.
Should we not kind of maybe form
I would go to the darts.
An EU alliance with the rest of the players, maybe the Irish lads, Suljovic, the Dutch lads, maybe an EU kind of like a Ryder Cup spirit, getting behind the European lads. Come on, Europe.
Yeah, I mean...
Happens in the Mosconi Cup in the pool.
I mean, yeah, okay.
So, like, you're now accepting the power of darts for social change?
No. I'm saying that they're going to get the shit kicked out of them by the fans. That's what'll happen. And then I'll be like, oh, I'm telling you, that won't end well.
So all darts players are Brexit-loving?
No, the fans.
But the fans are sorry.
But, like, I'm sure they're all lovely people.
You're not really, though.
Loads of lovely people voted to leave.
You don't seem convinced about that idea.
Oh, really?
It's almost a tone of sarcasm. There's one other picture we wanted to show you from the darts. This is a screenshot from Sky Sports last night. The most romantic setting possible. Ali Pali in December as a man proposes to his now fiancée. She said yes immediately, and you can see the environment around him. Anonymous beer legend on the right with pointy blue Christmas hat was there to witness the romantic moment.
I tell you, enjoy that man while you have him like that, because I can imagine 10 years' time he's probably going to be about 5 stone heavier, stubble. It's funny when you see some of the younger darts players come in
Brexit ways. Sure, is that the least romantic way to possibly
there's going to be no tungsten left for their fucking iron arrows or whatever, because they'll have to import it, and there won't be a World Trade Organization deal for it, and that'll be the end of the darts. These stupid idiots will have voted for the end of the only thing that they're good at.
There's a couple of other things we wanted to get to. There's this video from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer from the training ground in Molde, which we can bring you. Listen to this.
Any fucking chance anyone want to shoot? Come on, huh? You're 18 yards away from goal and you keep fucking passing it. Shoot! You won't ever score a goal if you don't shoot. Finish! Tima, you're here. Coming towards you. Take it. No, shoot! You're one-on-one with the keeper there. You play with the wall. Shoot! Matthias, you dribble 2 or 3. You're here. Shoot! Finish!
Sounds fairly encouraging from a Manchester United perspective, does it? Not sure, is Jose Mourinho
speaking in a deaf foreign language to your team?
Well, there is.
What's going on? It's like speaking to a bunch of Norwegians in English instead of speaking in Norwegian. It's almost like he's doing it for the cameras.
At least he's telling them to shoot the ball quite often.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
Does anybody...
Shoot! Shoot, Paul, shoot!
Like, if you're telling your players to shoot, you've obviously got a very high level of tactical nous. Do you want any guesses on who's the highest paid athlete of all time? Ger knows the answer.
It's got to be basketball, is it?
Nah.
No.
No, tiny bit different. Small bit different.
This is the shittest question of all time.
Keep guessing. No, it's the best question of all time.
Highest paid.
Once I say his name.
All time.
Once I say his name, you're going to be like, of course.
Is it Formula 1?
It's not Formula 1.
There were no cars. It is Formula 1.
It is actually like motor
It is Formula 1. It is the Formula 1 equivalent of ancient history.
Yes. So it was a Lusitanian Spaniard named Gaius Apelles Diocles is the highest paid athlete of all time.
There's a picture of him.
He made $15 billion throughout his career, if we're using today's money. So he was basically one of the legends of the Circus Maximus, who you'll all be familiar with. He retired at the age of 42 years, 7 months and 23 days as a champion of all charioteers. So his total take-home amounted to 5 times the earnings of the highest paid provincial governors over a similar period, enough to provide grain for the entire city of Rome for a full year, or to pay the ordinary soldiers of the Roman army at least the height of its imperial reach for a fifth of a year. This guy was a rich guy. He was an extremely good charioteer, and he made $15 billion. So remember the name, Gaius Apelles Diocles.
He was like the Teddy Sheringham of chariot racing.
Well, precisely.
42 years of age.
42 years of age. So from the year 146, no less.
42 would have been like the equivalent of 150 at that stage.
Well, yeah, and also in that sort of line of work, it's not exactly a high life expectancy.
Is it Ben-Hur levels of death? Everybody dies in every race, basically.
Well, obviously he wasn't like a full-blown gladiator taking on lions and tigers, but he was, like, chariot racing was still highly dangerous.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'd say the average age was probably around 22, if he made it to 42.
The competition that we've been running, copies of FIFA 19 to give away. That is Cristiano Ronaldo on the cover of FIFA 19. I wonder when that decision was made. But anyway, I'm sure the game is absolutely sensational. Although, who had a go at it recently? David Myler had a bit of a go at it.
Did he?
Yeah.
David Myler, FIFA ambassador?
Yeah.
What did he say?
I can't actually remember, but I'm sure it's brilliant. So, anyway, Kay Fenley, Tommy Walsh, hurling till 40. Most lads call it a day at their early 30s these days. Old habits die hard. Great interview. Tommy surviving a relegation and a turnaround. Good clubman. Hashtag OTB. FIFA, hashtag OTBAM. And Aisling S wins for my 13-year-old Spurs mad daughter. Skipped to school this morning. Her against 5 Arsenal fans. Hashtag COYS. That was primarily to troll. We had 2 Arsenal fans. You're not an Arsenal fan, are you? No.
Bulls fan.
Bohemians and Celtic are my teams, Ger.
Very good. Okay. I was wondering, some people get a bit, I'm not allowed to tell you anymore, but...
All the Rovers fans are currently cursing at the cameras now. Their screens.
That's me.
But both fans define Rovers. That, like, Rovers are nothing without both.
Very true. Like Celtic and Rangers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, I think it took Rangers being shit for a decade for Celtic to go, it's great and everything, and there's far fewer people come to the games now, and it's not that interesting anymore.
As Oasis once sang, because we need each other.
A fair point. Stephen, good stuff. Thanks very much for joining us. We're going to play you out with some Tommy Walsh gold from the past year. These are his hits. They include... his boot story, which I think is probably what swung the award for him. A bit of Rihanna, club training, the red card story, and the nugget that was his granddad shaking hands with Christy Ring. We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck. Here, I got to ask you, so beside the Hurling Warriors poster, what's the other thing over your right shoulder?
Yeah. So I put that up. Can you see that clearly? Yeah?
Just a bit. Yeah. There's a headline there. It all began with a Brown and Nolan medal.
Yeah. I'll try and bring over the phone to it, see does it work.
Oh yeah. So what is it?
Can you see that now?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's my, I put it up there, you might notice it or might not, but you did, so it's great. That's my grandfather, Paddy Grace, the man with the cap and the hurls and the suit. So he played for Kilkenny for many years, and he was the secretary for the county board for many years, but just a hurling man. Like, he talk about me that I love hurling. This man loved hurling 100 times more than I did. He was the man in Nolan Park that he wanted all the kids to be let out in the field because he said they're the future. And he would never let anyone hunt the kids off the field. And who's he shaking hands with? The greatest of them all, Christy Ring. So that's a brilliant, brilliant photo. And what I loved about that is we're talking about elitism at the moment. And I know that the new GA president was talking about the development squads, and we have to move away from elitism. We're the GA, we're about the community. Look, there you have 2 great men, and look at the young fellas. looking up at him. This is an All-Ireland final, the 1954 All-Ireland final. Cork were after beating Kilkenny, and the young lads there in shaking hands with Christy Ring. Look at the crowds that are at the match. Like, to me, that's the GAA. That's what we're all about. So I said I'd put that up there. One of you might know us, and then we could talk about it. But it's we have to stay away from elitism. The GAA is about the community where everyone is involved. So it's inter-county, it's club, it's everyone. It's a kind of a 50-50 kind of a thing. So I just said I'd put that up there for that.
Yeah. And like unbelievable sportsmanship too from your grandfather, who's obviously lost and is devastated by the loss, but still goes over to shake the hand of Christy Ring.
Yeah, but sure, that's the way hurling is, and that's the way it always has been. Like, you're devastated, you're down in the dumps, but you go over and you say, listen, that's the way you're trying to teach the kids, and that's the way you were taught by your own parents and coaches. You shake their hands and say, listen, I did everything I could. I might have hated you for that 60 minutes, that 70 minutes on the field and for the few minutes beforehand. But it's over now. We're both hurling men. We all come from clubs. We all come from hurling families, and we're all the one. So it's nearly kind of it's a relief even to shake a hand after getting bet, because at least you can just say, listen, we did our best and we weren't good enough. Let's move on, and you can kind of... You can let it go.
But then, of course, that the red card came. It was just, a pull a bit to the left. But, the red card came, and I suppose it's been all Kilkenny since.
And was the red card harsh, Tommy?
I'm sure, listen, he's a defender, I'm a defender. There should never be any red cards in hurling if I was refereeing, but I didn't really see it. Now,
right.
the sun was glaring down in his eyes, and there's another point for Kilkenny. So they are stretching out the legs now, because Wexford had to bring back a man, so any ball that's going up into that full forward line is being, I suppose, swept up by the Kilkenny spare man.
You've left me on a cliff there. So the sun was hanging into his eye, or shining into his eyes, and then what did he do?
The ball came down, and kind of two of them kind of pulled, and and it just kind of clipped him on the back of the helmet.
Come on, tell me what happened. It clipped him on the back of the helmet.
Yeah, but the ball was
That's
there,
a euphemism if I ever heard it.
The ball was thereabouts. Just it can happen so easily in this game, Joe.
It's happened to you many a time.
No.
The great thing about the clubs and the GAA is the understanding, Joe, right? And we were watching that, and we had training for 7 o'clock, and next minute it's a draw, and we didn't know was it a replay or what was going on, and the word came out then that was extra time, and we all got a text message: lads, training is delayed, come down whenever extra time is over. And but isn't that common sense? And isn't that brilliant? Because sure, we're all hurling people, we all want to watch these brilliant players on these the great stage. Everyone was expecting today to be the thriller. In fact, yesterday was just one of the best semi-finals we probably have ever seen. And I just thought, fair play, like, we're a small little club, 600 or 700 people in Tullaroan, absolutely enthralled in hurling, and I thought it was great common sense. We went down, we had a great training session after.
Tommy Walsh, hello.
Joe, welcome to Parnell Park. The sun is out, Joe, the people are out, and we'll have a full house, I'd say, in a few minutes here. It's filling up nicely, and the Dubs are just after coming out to a loud cheer.
I'm told you arrived at 5 a.m. this morning.
No, well, I was up here since last night, Joe. My uncle is part of the Whitehall Column Kills Club just down the road, and the lip sync competition. So I was asked just to help him out and be a judge. And the funny thing about it was, Joe, the guys that won, there were two guys dressed up as Rihanna. And I was coming in the turnstiles today, and who let me in the turnstiles? Only your man dressed up as Rihanna. I said to him he was looking better last night. So yeah, I had to fry this morning in my Uncle William's house. The eggs, like my granny used to make them, they were done in Kerrygold butter and all, so it was a great start to the day.
Well, I will say it was a funny story. I was booed coming in by the Galway lads, but what I will say is my first match for Kilkenny was under 14 in a Tony Forrestal game, and I was marking no other than the legend Johnny Marr. And how big was he then? He said to my father, we're still looking at the YouTube clips of him hitting all those lads in that county final a few years ago. I don't know, was it from Gurt or was it Portone? I think it was Gurt, was it? Thomas's, was it? It was the funniest. But I marked Johnny Marr, scored 2 points off me. I remember we were looking at the Galway lads. They had lovely gear. They were kind of beating everyone all around them. That was a Tony Forrestal. We went on and played Galway in the Nina Co-op, which is the under 16 All-Ireland. Ger Farrer was midfield, brilliant player again, scored 16 points. I think he scored most of them from play, from midfield, knocked us out with that. But this is where the funny bit comes then. So we end up playing Laois in a Shield match. And you'd be talking about motivations. Our motivation, if you won the Shield, you got a new pair of boots. Everyone got a new pair of boots. So our manager, John McCormick, was on to us, lads, we have to win this, we have to get those boots. So we were playing Laois in the semi-final. I'm not sure where it was. And we were beaten by 2 points. With about, I think could have been a minute to go or the last puck of the game. They got a free out in the 21 at the sideline. And one of the Laois lads went to take it. And I started shouting at him. I was on the goal. You're going to miss it, you're going to miss it, you know. Just before sledging or any of that. And that was our sledging back there. So the referee thought it was David Hershey. David Hershey was on goal. And the referee thought it was him. So he brought David Hershey out from the goal, started booking him. There was no yellow cards or red cards back then. So started booking him. So everyone on the sideline was giving out about David Hershey. What did the referee do? He brought the free from the sideline straight in front of the goal. Crazy stuff. What did the Laois guy do then? Put the ball down, buried in the top corner. Laois bet us and we were going home without no boots. And David Hershey didn't talk to me for 3 years. So that was my good stories. It wasn't always good news when we played Galway.